The doctor.
The doctor is in.
Oh my gosh. So quiet.
And here a pin
We're
drop.
starting the show.
Oh, that's right. You like to do the thing where you start like in the middle of conversation.
Here we go. Welcome everybody. Evening. Salutations. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just improvising and I don't do that very well. We are here for Late Night Comics. Joining me as always is the RDV. We don't know what that stands for, but we're assured that it does stand for something. And guest hosting with us tonight is the venerable Bow Ties Are Cool. Zach is in the house. Hello, Zach. Welcome.
It's
What?
angry.
Wait,
Sorry.
what?
It's
What?
angry. It's angry heathen status Zach.
Gosh, I need to change my name in the Discord. I've been Heathen Status Zach for too long. I forgot how I even earned that name. I think it has something to do with hot wings.
The angry icon is really. I noticed
Oh,
that last
oh,
week.
oh no! I zoomed. That's a picture from a manga. It's a dog, but I couldn't. The dog's face was like this long rectangle, and it wouldn't fit in the circle. So I just zoomed in enough to where it's just his eyeballs.
This is an angry smiley face.
I need to. I'll need to go in and adjust that.
I literally thought, like, man, did somebody piss him off? He just changed the icon to an angry face. It's like the Mr. Yuck without the bottom.
Whatever the
Oh
case
no!
is,
It's
can't
just a
help
dog.
but notice how blatantly white it is. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm here to
could be.
get away from that.
that is
You
that
chose a
is
kind of
true.
a strange avatar.
Well,
Just
it's not
saying.
my fault. All of manga is black and white, Ash. It's not my fault.
Yeah, you
Talk.
change it. You change it if you could. It's all white.
My life. What is my life? Oh, look, yeah, it's like the eyeballs just blend into the square.
I
It,
know. Well, that's what it's on mine. But see, like on
I can't
mine,
help it.
because where I like, does Discord like for when you're logged in yourself? Does this show your square being blue at all? Mine shows blue on the bottom, but it shows up green on the screen here.
It
I'm not even looking on this. Hang on, I'll have to look and see.
Is that
No,
like a
mine shows up gray, like a dark gray.
that's
Yours looks green on both Discord and YouTube.
on mine? It's blue. It's
think
just what's
dark
wrong.
gray is really just taking a lot of artistic liberty. It's pretty white.
For me, it looks dark gray. I will take a picture and I will send it later.
Like
Uh,
literally, mine shows. I thought that was a thing of Discord highlights you in blue. I thought something like that.
we could
But
just
I
let
don't
the
know.
audience decide for themselves.
Yeah. Don't let me
Yeah,
down, audience.
I'm just saying you tee yourself up sometimes. It's like you make it too difficult to ignore. So,
Um,
anyways, we're here for Late Night Comics, and we got a couple of good comics that we're featuring tonight. Besides the two feature books, anyone have any other books that stood out to them this week?
Let me look. See what came out last week.
I only had 4 books last week. Last week was an unusually light week for me.
It was a very light week last
But
week.
the ones that I did pick up, I picked up. What did I have? I picked up 3 books. I read 4, but I picked up 3. I think RDV is sending me the 4th one.
Yeah, yes.
Um,
2 books stood out to me last week.
yeah, I would say 2 books, maybe 3, but it
For
was a good week. I didn't have any stinkers, so.
for me, well, one of them was something epic. The second one,
Oh yeah, that's right.
just it lives up to its name. Very heart wrenching story. And then Battle Chasers.
Battle
Really,
Chasers was pretty sweet.
yeah.
Didn't get to read something epic or Battle Chasers. I'm really surprised at you guys. By the got a frog in my throat. Get out of there, froggy. Um,
Get away from me, you fiend!
I'm really surprised at you guys like jumping on the Battle Chasers bandwagon. Like the book's like 25 years old, and you guys are just kind of like, oh hey, Battle Chasers came out. Let's get the whole thing. Let's just jump on it.
What? Well, I don't want to start at issue 10.
Well, that's
I
fair
did.
enough. I just think it was like kind of funny, like how out of nowhere both of you guys were like, "I want to become a
I
Battle Chasers fan."
I thought it was like really stupid to launch it at 10. I'm like, where's the first 9 issues? Then I realized, oh, it's one of those series that's finally being continued after all
Yeah.
these years.
Yeah, I mean, I was already impressed at the fact that they didn't just relaunch it and start over again at number 1. But I also found out I didn't realize that Joe Madureira was doing comics anymore. Last thing I read that he did was Ultimates 3, which is the worst of the Ultimates line from Marvel.
He hasn't done
But
comics in a while. Battle Chasers was the last thing I knew of that he did. I didn't even
He
know
did
he
it.
did.
Oh,
He did number 9 for DC, and then he left.
he
Number
did what
9
for
for
DC?
DC.
Yeah, because remember, Wildstorm was bought by DC. Did these
Oh,
so
okay.
from Planetary and all that stuff? Remember reading that stuff? Remember it was part of the DC universe. So he did number
Ah.
9, and then he after like apparently they're getting upset with him because it took him like 3 years, or not 3 years, but I mean he did only 3 comics per year.
Wait, what's number 9? I'm not following you.
The Battle Chasers number 9, the 9th issue.
Yeah, the original Battle Chasers was only 10 issues, so
No,
Joe
no,
I
no,
thought,
Madureira.
I
no,
thought Battle
it was
Chasers was an Image book.
Battle Chasers was only 9 issues.
Yeah, but I thought it was an Image
Oh
book.
no, you're right. You're right. It was 9 issues. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was Wildstorm. Let me look.
Hang on. I'm on League of Comic.
If it is, I don't know. I'm dead tired now, half awake.
Come on.
It
Oh.
was it was Image. It was an Image book.
Yeah, I was all thrown off. I'm like, what did he do at DC?
Well,
And you're like, number 9. I was
sorry,
like,
I take that back. It's Image now. It was Cliffhanger back when it was first released, which was in the 90s. No, early 2000. It started in 99 or 98 actually. So
yeah,
it
I mean,
was
it's
through
his own self. What do you? I guess I don't, maybe it's self-published. I guess I don't know.
It was originally published by Wildstorm, though,
It was
Huh?
Wildstorm through Cliffhanger,
Yeah.
I guess.
under its Cliffhanger imprint, founded by Madeira with Scott Campbell and Humberto
Okay.
Ramos.
Okay.
Then the series.
Whoa,
Then in 2001.
whoa. Wildstorm was Image though.
No, hold on. Then it moved to Image Comics in 2001.
Yeah, this started in 98.
Yeah.
No. Wildstorm is not a publisher. Wildstorm was Jim Lee's imprint through Image.
Yeah.
Like Silvestri has Top Cow.
I'm just saying this is
Our
yeah,
boy
this
Robert
is
Kirkman has Skybound. They all published through
Yeah.
Image.
so
Wildstorm would have been Image.
under Cliffhanger label, and founded by Phil Arts, J. Scott Campbell, Humberto Ramos, and for Jim Lee's Image Comics imprint, Wildstorm. When effective in 1999, Wildstorm was sold to DC Comics. Cliffhanger moved the title along 5 issues, 5 through 8, were published by DC until Madeira left. The publisher released Battle Chasers 9 through Image Comics.
Interesting. So DC published some of them.
Yep, and then it went to the issue 9 went to Image.
That's really weird. I have to look more into
And
that.
Wikipedia, bro. Whether it's accurate or not, that's what it says. I don't care. I got to read them. I found them all there.
The more you know. Do 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 do.
No one's half the battle.
Yo, Joe. That's something else I can get excited
Speaking
about.
of Yo Joe,
Yo,
I
Joe,
got some
baby.
exciting comic news for those of you that have been living under a rock in the world of comics. I feel like everyone knows this already, but maybe someone doesn't.
Joe Geek Show was on our.
No, not that
wasn't it?
Joe.
Oh,
We're not-
I'm sorry.
I mean that Joe. Look, we love that Joe. We love Joe Geek Show, Joe's Geek Show, but that's not the one he's about to talk about.
It derailed me, you son of a.
You guys were talking, so I took a pause to let my dog in, and then you guys immediately just stopped, and I wasn't there to like pick up the void.
The void, you say?
The void, I say,
Void?
yes.
Void Rivals?
Yes, we kind of are void rivals, me and RDV. Kind of rivals.
There's only one of us for this void.
Oh man, we're really stretching this. But anyways, for those of you that have been living under a rock or just don't pay attention or just don't care or whatever, I don't know. Hasbro rescinded their rights from IDW, or IDW just didn't re-up them. I don't know the exact details. I don't think it's been released as far as I know, but the general speculation is that Hasbro was like, we've had enough of IDW trashing our properties. So IDW lost them, and that is not verifiable fact, but that is the going word on the street. So IDW, this happened like last year. Then there was rumors that Robert Kirkman was going to get the rights to it. People were like, "Well, that's weird," but not so out there. I mean, Robert Kirkman, from what I understand, made a bid for Marvel Comics one time, but
Was
so
that back when they were going through that bankruptcy period?
I don't think it
Like
was that far back, but maybe.
Because I know Michael Jackson had done a similar thing. He tried to buy Marvel way
Michael
back when.
Jackson, really? Wow, that'd
Yeah.
be weird.
Oh yeah. That would have been really weird.
Wow, they might have gone pedo a lot earlier. Oh, I'm sorry. That was sorry. Um, that was a bad, tasteless joke that I just couldn't resist.
Say it again. I was listening.
You can rewind. That's what you always tell me.
How could I rewind on Discord?
What was I saying? Oh, so anyways, so people heard the rumor. I was like, oh, okay, well, it's been all confirmed. Skybound does actually have G.I. Joe and Transformers, but not only do they have them, and this is something I was kind of hoping would happen because I knew Robert Kirkman would treat the properties right. He clearly loves comics. He clearly understands like quality. He wants to put out good effort. He doesn't just do like half-ass BS nonsense. So Transformers is launching in October as an ongoing series with none other than Daniel Warren Johnson doing the writing and the art.
Yeah, buddy.
I thought that Robert Kirkman would probably go out and get some decent names, some like mid-plus writer talent, mid-plus art
But
talent,
then he got these guys. I'm so pissed off.
and basically kind of do what he did with his spin-offs for Invincible. Remember when he had Invincible and then he would do like spin-off books?
Yes.
They weren't quite as good as Invincible, but they were like they weren't dog shit. They were just
yeah. Well, that's what I think of when I think of Astounding Werewolf or Wolfman.
yeah. They were just I figured Transformers would be along that line. So just like some good mid-writers and artists, just like journeymen, just doing some basic work, kind of handling like what Marvel used to do back in the 80s with those properties. Little did I know that he would get someone like who's shot up the charts as like one of my favorite writer artists in the business. Like just like what, Daniel Warren Johnson? And it's not like, oh, here's a 5-issue limited series by Daniel Warren Johnson. It's ongoing.
It's an ongoing, baby.
I am floored. And then
I'm not even a huge Transformers fan, but this got me really excited.
Yeah.
I heard that Murder Falcon's making an appearance in there.
And then Murder Falcons. And then he's doing a G.I. Joe series, which has not been announced, but there's 2 like prequel books, I'm assuming is what they are. There's a Duke book and a Cobra Commander book, both being written by Josh Williamson, who I love. These guys pretend to like him, but they only read his DC works.
I have a backlog I am working through.
To be honest, Jeremy Adams better.
Okay, that's on the. You're only comparing to his Flash stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway.
And here's the thing. RDV makes a good argument. God, I just blanked his name.
Joshua Williamson?
Joshua, thank you. Joshua, yeah. Joshua Williamson's DC stuff, especially as of recent years, has become kind of meh. It's fine. It's very mid. It's just serviceable, but it's not the impressive stuff that it used to be. And I think that's because he writes too many freaking books. And I just think that's a curse that any writer is going to have. We've seen it happen over and over and over again. Chip Zdarsky's currently going through that. If you're a writer, writing a single ongoing comic is already tough enough. You might start out the gates really well, right? But you get that first story arc, maybe the second story arc done, And then you're like, I got to keep writing, keep coming up with new stories, and they're due every month, like clockwork, you know? You can't always wait for inspiration, and writing is a challenge. I mean, the actual fact of putting words to a page is not the challenge, but the actual creation thing, that's the tough part. And then you got to do that for 5 books a month. That's ridiculous. And I think that really shows. I think that happened to Donny Cates. I watched it happen. I mean, we saw it all happen with Bendis. Not that Bendis, I think Bendis was always overrated, but came to DC and literally was writing 10 books a month at DC. That's stupid. That's a book every 2 days. You're writing a comic book every 2 days. Of course you're going to get garbage. But you take a writer like Josh Williamson, he's only writing like 1 book, maybe 2. His work way better. Jeremy Adams, you guys both love him. I'm kind of getting my introductions to him. How many books he writing? 1?
Yeah,
2?
One at a time.
He
One at a
also
time.
he
Yeah.
does do some
He was- but he-
screenwriting
But he,
also, but
he
yeah.
was on Flashpoint Beyond. Worked on that with
Right.
F. Johns.
Yeah, that's right.
And then he was doing the Flash for a long time, but now they kicked him off the Flash for Science Superior. Stupid.
We'll see.
I don't care. Science Superior could be a great writer. The fact that fans were buying that book. So
Were
it's just
they?
that
How high was Flash up on the sales charts? That's what I want to know. I don't, because they don't make that information easy to find.
No, it's not. I mean, we don't necessarily know all the reasons. It does seem like Jeremy Adams wasn't looking to go.
Yeah.
No.
But I'm a big
No.
I'm a big proponent of like, look, if you're a writer and you're just like, my time, I need to go. Like, I'm not inspired with this character anymore. I've told the stories I can. I want to go out on a high. I don't want to just like
Well, it's
beat a
Rambee's
dead
model.
horse.
He does what he wants to do, and then he leaves, goes to the next one. He doesn't want to
Yeah.
stay there forever.
Right. But I mean, if hypothetically, if that were Jeremy Adams' case, he was like, I really want to sink my teeth into Green Lantern, and he has to leave Flash to do it. I say, so be it. He was on Flash for more than a few minutes. And I'm sad for the fans. Now, if DC was just like, we need to end this and we change, and do their meddling, then that's lame, because all I heard was positives. I didn't hear one single person out there on the grapevine complaining about Jeremy Adams' Flash.
I'm gonna add something on to that. They just did their whole Father's Day thing, a tweet on for DC did.
Yeah.
Not one mention of Wally West being a father. 3 kids.
Yeah, they put and then even when they put Batman and Bruce Wayne, it was not him and his biological son. They had him up there with Dick Grayson and then with Cassandra Cain. It's like, you guys know he has a son.
Like it was. Well, I'm saying the snub to Jeremy Adams.
Yeah. Oh no, definitely. They big time snubbed the Flash being a dad. They all. I mean, look. In fairness, I know they're not going to be able to fit every dad on there, but the Flash, especially with the big, his own title and everything, it does seem like he should have had us, especially over like Steel and his, not even his daughter, but his niece. I thought that was really weird, but yeah.
I think what's going to happen, I don't know if Flash is a big seller. I know it was always a solid seller through Josh Williamson's run. I know fans that were reading Flash, not just you guys, but I mean, just everywhere on the grapevine, I hear people are just positive about the Flash. It's a really good sign. I cannot help but believe that whatever sales it does have is going to sink. And if you have a writer like Jeremy Adams, who you're probably not paying top dollar because he's not a huge name in comics, and he's willing to do the book and he's doing a knockout job, like, in my opinion, you just keep that guy doing it. You just keep writing Flash as long as you want to. That's what Marvel did with X-Men back in the day. Chris Claremont, he just like owned that book, and he was like, I don't want to write anything else. I just want to write X-Men. And Marvel's like, we're just happy you keep writing X-Men, Chris. Like 17 years later, they come to find out there was a big controversy. They actually yanked him off the book. All those years, I thought that he retired. I thought that he was just like done with the book finally, and was like, I didn't know until just a few years ago that Marvel actually like pulled him from the book and all this controversy, and it was like had to do with Jim Lee, and like I was like, oh my goodness, they really kept that under wraps. But hopefully it's not something like that at DC. But look at the industry we're in.
Mm. For every good thing DC does with their publishing line, they do like two stupid decisions.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's
They
like
look
it's a monkey's paw
what
type
they,
thing.
and what they seem to do is they always seem to take 2 steps back,
Yeah.
and then they'll move a step forward and get fans to be like, oh, look, they're moving forward. It's this great thing, and everyone's like, their fans are celebrating, and I have to I'm always like, yeah, but they're
Waiting for
still
the
a
other
step
shoe to drop.
behind. They're still they took 2 steps back. This isn't a good thing. If you keep going 2 steps back and then 1 step forward and 2 steps back and one, you're just going backwards. It's not
Yeah,
forwards.
true.
But yeah, I mean, just keep Flash was just doing good. Josh Williamson and Jeremy Adams, like I don't understand. Just you could just left it on autopilot. You know, it was like you didn't have to worry about that book.
Could have
But
been easy money. Yeah.
well, and just good for your brand, right? I think there's going to be comics that don't make you a lot of money, but
Right.
what it is, it's about keeping your brand alive and keeping your brand important. And when fans of anything, if they think the brand is cool, you can get by with products in that brand that don't do well, right? You know,
Yeah.
like Coca-Cola has so many failed not like spin-off drinks like all the
Hmm.
time. But the brand is so solid that it never hurts it, right? People are just like, "Oh, that Coke Starlight stuff was bizarro weird." And then
That's fair.
people just forget about it. Like, "Oh, whatever." You know, like move on. But when your product is like, you know, Big K soda, you can't afford that. You know, like and DC right now is kind of squandering. Like they're flailing and it's like, you got Batman and what else? It's like it's time to just get your lines out because if fans can like just point, and we know this. Like there's Marvel versus DC has been going on for longer than any of us have been alive. And it's kind of like the console wars, PlayStation versus Xbox, or there's always the fandom. And I remember growing up as a Marvel fan, I used to make fun of the DC fans. And I would point back and see my comics are cooler than your comics, And I didn't even read a quarter of the Marvel comics, right? But at
Hmm.
least I could point to them and be like, those comics are cool. I'm not even reading them, but at least I'm not ashamed of them. you know, but and that's what you want. You want to be able to fans that even if they don't read the Flash, like me, I don't read the Flash, but I can when I tell people about DC and the goodness of DC, Flash is always what comes out of my mouth. Like, oh, if you're gonna want to, here's the books you want to look at, and whatever. What about you guys in the chat? What do you guys think? By the way, Rania says that your Discord icon looks pale gray.
That's so weird. Well, on YouTube it looks pale gray, but when I look on Discord in the Discord streaming thing, it's like a dark gray. I don't know.
It looks the same on both.
It looks
I
different
mean,
to me.
I don't know.
Eh.
Hmm.
Man,
One of life's
Meh.
mysteries.
Yep, one of life's great mysteries.
solving a mystery.
The weird thing too, even with all the missteps DC is doing with like the Flash and all these other things, they're still putting out better product than Marvel is, or at least current Marvel.
They are. I would agree with you, but man, it looked pretty shady for a while.
Oh yeah, and it still does. Like
That
some of their
future
best
state
pictures.
was it was like, what
Future
are you
State
doing?
was rough. Yeah,
What are you doing, DC?
yeah.
Um, but it's like that 2 steps backwards, right? You went from Rebirth, then you took 2 steps back with Future State, and now Dawn of DC seems to be like 1 step forward.
Hmm.
You know, so I don't know. I'm willing to give. I'm willing to try to be optimistic. Tehillim says time to get a refund from Image Comics for Jim Lee running DC Comics. Um, I don't think. Well, now Jim Lee's been promoted to president, I think this happened last month.
Yeah.
Before then, I don't think Jim Lee was running DC Comics. I don't think Jim Lee was ever running DC Comics, and I think a lot of people wanted to point fingers at him and blame all the failures of DC and put it on his shoulders. But he was not in charge of these things. And I personally think that Jim Lee was much of a figurehead. Like he's got a position, like an honorary, like, oh, we're gonna make you VP of whatever, executive VP, because we want to say that Jim Lee is there. Like he's a, like it or not, like Jim Lee is the biggest living legend in comics today. There's no more Stan Lee, you know.
Yeah.
That guy was the king, right? But he's gone. Who's bigger in comics than Jim Lee?
Jim Lee didn't do writing, right? He just did art.
He did a little bit of writing, but he's not known as a writer. He's an artist.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to talk about like classic I mean, John Byrne's still around, isn't he?
Yeah, but Jim Lee is far surpassed John Byrne.
Yeah.
I mean, John Byrne is a better writer, and John Byrne is a legend. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer for sure. But I'm just
Right.
talking about as a big name when you talk about like superstars, right? Just
Yeah, Jim Lee's he is pretty up there.
I can't think of anyone bigger. And so it just behooves DC to be like, yeah, he's at our house. He has a lot of credibility to that. And I think a lot of the dumb decisions that DC was doing was not coming from his office. So now that he's president, now what I will say is 6 months from now, because it does take time. It's not like you get promoted president and then boom, you see the changes immediately.
Right, right.
You know,
yeah.
because things are in the pipeline, comics, you know, you have to go through the publishing. It's like 6 months behind. So 6
Mhm.
months from now, that's when I'm willing to put the blame on Jim Lee.
On
Whatever
Jim Lee.
starts happening 6 months from now,
So
if
do you think I'm sorry, go ahead, finish that.
I was just gonna say, I'll just be like, oh, okay, so like January 1st, 2024, if DC announces something stupid, I'll be like, okay, you're right, Jim Lee. You know, like, but as of right now, I think it's too premature. And another thing going along with that is I see a lot of the finger pointing at Jim Lee for the negatives, but what about the positives?
Mhm.
Like Dawn of DC is a step forward from Future State. It seems like they're doing some solid corrections.
Yeah.
You know, so does he get credit for that? Or does he only get credit for the dumb thing? All the good stuff was done by someone else, and all the bad stuff was
Well,
done by him.
we've seen with presidents, you know, we've seen how that goes. They always we like to gripe and complain about all the bad stuff that presidents do, and nobody wants to give enough credit for the good stuff.
Yeah.
So, but no, what I was gonna say is, do you think that with Jim Lee being in this new position, like, do you think that because like there's David Zaslav, kind of, you think he's gonna be like reporting directly to him, and that'll probably have some say or some influence over what he approves or doesn't approve or what happens?
Mm, I doubt it. The way DC seems to be structured, I don't think David Zaslav will have any care whatsoever. He won't pay attention to anything outside of the TV and movie stuff. So when it comes to like the DC films and things, yeah, David Zaslav will be probably paying attention to that.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's why he hired James Gunn, right? And so
Right.
DC seems to be doing a little bit different than what Marvel's doing. Marvel, you know, put Kevin Feige as like head of all Marvel stuff, so that means he runs the comics too. There doesn't seem to, like, James Gunn's not in that position, right? Like James Gunn's
Right.
not ordering Jim Lee around. Will that change? I don't know. We'll have to see, I guess, how successful Marvel does things. But um, I just think that look, I don't think Jim Lee's probably going to be the greatest comics publisher ever. I just think that he gets a lot of flack because people want to point fingers when things happen that they don't like. They want a scapegoat, and so we got to find someone to blame. And when you're a visible person like Jim Lee's visible, it's easy to point your finger at that. It's weird how Bob Harras never got anyone pointing fingers when he's like the editor of chief for DC in the past 20 years before he got fired. Like when all this shit was happening, like, you know, New 52, no one was like, that damn Bob Harras. No one was, it's like, you know, people blame Didio and things like that. And sure, Didio deserves his fair share of blame for certain things, but there's other people at DC doing things, and the editor-in-chief's got a lot of power. And, you know, they got the new editor-in-chief, was it Marie Javins? Is that her name?
Yeah, that sounds right. Marie Javins, yeah.
I was big dumping on her in the beginning. I was like, man, I got glorified secretary promoted to editor-in-chief. What's DC doing? But then I look at what they're doing, and I'm like, shortly after, it was like they announced Batman was getting Rom V, and then Chip Zdarsky. It was like I was like, that was my pick to put. They started putting these decisions on these books where I was like, oh, well, I got him. I got to pull back because I don't know exactly how much Marie Javins is responsible, but she's the EOC, so, or EIC, that's how you pronounce it. So yeah, I don't want to incorrectly blame people that don't deserve blame. Marania says, not Frank Miller. Who are you, and what have you done with Ash?
Yeah, you were talking about
yeah.
who's big in, like Jim Lee. Yeah,
And now,
he did.
when it comes to my heart, Marania, Frank Miller is the biggest. But objectively speaking, Jim Lee is way bigger than Frank Miller. Like, I the world doesn't revolve around me. But yeah, so yeah, I think Frank Miller is, you know, in his heyday. Is he a better artist? It's hard to say. Frank Miller was a better sequential storyteller than Jim Lee, for sure. And I can definitively state that Jim Lee looked up to Frank Miller by the very fact that Jim Lee copied Frank Miller. So you never saw Frank Miller try to draw like Jim Lee, but you did see Jim Lee try to draw like Frank Miller. So there's that. And when it comes to writing, everyone wishes they could be Frank Miller, whether they'll admit it or not. But, you know, not today's Frank Miller, but 80s Frank Miller or 90s. So yeah. So in my heart, he's number one. He's the GOAT. But Jim Lee is the rock star. He's the superstar. And he's fading. I mean, everyone's time fades.
That's true.
Speaking of fading, do we still got the frog?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Just double checking on you. You know, calling a wellness check.
I'm just waiting for us to get to the actual books.
Oh, so
In 42 minutes. In 42 minutes.
42 minutes of having fun and talking.
I've heard y'all ramble.
I know.
I'm letting you have fun. Talk to Zach.
All right.
I'm saving my energy for the books. we did a segue to the, you know, Transformers, and then we just kind of went away from that. Kept going.
Real quick before we do move on from that, something else. You didn't bring this up, Ash. I don't know if you heard about this one or not.
Congrats, Zach. I always knew you'd have the strength to come out of the closet. I'm happy for you.
Oh, come on. God, dog. Anyway.
You're not coming out?
Oh, no, I'm not. Anyway, along with all the news of Joshua Williamson on these G.I. Joe prequel books and Daniel Warren Johnson on Transformers, the other big thing they announced was Larry Hama was going to be coming back to pick up G.I. Joe, continuing the series that Marvel had put out like way back when. And he's picking it right back up. Yeah, he's picking it right back up at the issue number it left off at. I think what is it? 31?
301.
301. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, so he's not renumbering it. I think it is going to be in a different timeline than the Joshua Williamson stuff, but yeah, they got him to come back and just pretty much pick up where he left off when he was writing for Marvel, which I think
Dude,
is
that's gonna make the GI Joe fan community really happy.
yeah. Larry Hama on GI Joe, yeah, that's
But
gonna be
also doing that, like just starting at 301, because you got all those
kind of
fans that got those
Battle
books.
Chaser. Yeah,
They got those books and they collect them, and now they get to add, and it just like adds to that
Mhm.
series.
Yep,
That's gonna make them feel
And
like
and
really
tho- and
cared
those
about,
yep.
those that
respected.
sold their some of those that sold their collection, they figured there wasn't gonna be another one anymore. Now it's like crap.
Well, that'll teach you for
All you
selling your
walk, all
collection.
yeah, all you Walking Dead fans,
I think that's just really cool.
it
though.
might happen.
Yeah,
Man,
it's just like Battle Chasers. They picked it up all these years later, right in the next issue. So
that's really cool. I wonder if
I
I
wonder
have
if
to I
Marvel
have
and
to
DC
assume
are
this is the
listening.
case. I have to assume that Skybound's gonna probably reprint those Marvel books then, right?
I don't know. Do you think that Marvel? I mean, because Disney likes
Well,
to keep their IPs.
Hasbro
Yeah.
has the license to the characters of the book, so maybe Hasbro has license to those Marvel ones.
You don't
But
think
Yeah,
that
well,
because
Hasbro is the owner of them,
yeah,
so
but you don't
so
think
Skybound's
that
Mar-
because
licensing.
Marvel's the one that printed them? You don't think they have any way to like
no.
hold
So
on to that?
what I'm gonna say is that Marvel was IDW back then. They did all their different Marvel Now books. They're printing.
Mhm.
They did the books there, but they did a lot of IPs though. They weren't their own. That's why they kind of went away from those. A lot of the ones they did not own, they shelved or stopped talking because I thought they did Transformers too.
Marvel, they had some license stuff. Where it's like they did like a Transformers Avengers
They
crossover.
lost the license, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think
Um,
it was a mini series. It wasn't meant to be like a long ongoing thing or anything.
so who knows? I mean, if Hasbro has the main rights to them, never gave them a different deal,
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be cool. Be cool to see those old Marvel issues come back.
Even if they don't have the rights to them, who cares? They can still continue the story though.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
So in the chat is Gigamock. I was just thinking, I was like, man, I'm curious to talk to my buddy who lives next door to me, who's a big GI Joe fan, and here he is in the chat listening in. So welcome, buddy.
Oh, right
Curious,
on.
give out your input. I would love to hear your thoughts. He says that as maybe the sole GI Joe fan here, there are a lot of folks who wish Hama would walk away. Not me, but to be fair, that last issue at IDW were weak.
Yeah, I heard some not so good things about those last few issues at IDW.
But to be the optimist, which I'm sometimes have struggling to do, IDW is a really poorly run company that hires
Yeah,
people like Heather Antos to do their editing.
true.
Oh,
Skybound is a place of like creative positive, like it's a place where creators go to flourish. Like Robert Kirkman loves comics. Robert Kirkman, if GI Joe can succeed anywhere, if Larry Hama is going to come back and like be revitalized as a writer, I could see it being working over there at Kirkman's house, and just so maybe he's over the hill. Maybe Hama's needs to be put out to pasture, like maybe Frank Miller does. Or no, I'm not, but maybe there's some rejuvenation there. Maybe when Hama sees that, like, we want to do really great things, we're we're not just IDW. We're here to tell our little woke stories and make our like it just I just IDW just does. Do they do anything good? They managed to mess up Usagi Yojimbo. Like, how does that happen?
The only thing they ever did good at there was ending the Ghostbusters. Dear God,
I can't think of anything
that was the only series that they did not end up ruining.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I really can't remember any books
But-
that I've read from IDW recently.
But
that I thought
now he does comment on what you said about the whole reprinting side. He said IDW did reprint all the Marvel stuff.
That's why I'm thinking. I believe when you have licensed stuff like that, that when you become the new license holder,
Mhm.
you have access to the reprints. The same thing with Marvel got the Star Wars back, Marvel reprinted all the old
Yep.
Dark Horse stuff is now under Marvel.
Yep. You're right. You're right.
Completely forgot
So
about that.
You're
that makes
renting
me
the IP. You don't own the IP. So therefore, you don't own anything that's there. You
Which, yeah, it's
you
probably
can-
part of the contract that says
Yeah.
if you lose, yeah. So I would guess if Skybound is going to start at 301, and they're going to make that as like an official thing, like we're continuing after 300 at Marvel. I could only presume that if they have the ability to, they're going to reprint those books and trades, right? People are going to be excited about the rebooting of G.I. Joe, but not
That
the
would be
G.I. Joe of the current year, but G.I. Joe back when it was really good and fun at Marvel. Not to
be
say
great
that there was
because-
no stuff afterwards. There may
I'm gonna
have
say
very
this,
well
though,
have been.
It will
there
be
was some
crazy
stuff.
though
There was some
if Ghostbusters, this next movie, makes it more popular. I wouldn't be surprised if whoever owns the rights to that, because IDW lost the rights to Ghostbusters, if they start bringing
did they?
Ghostbusters comic books. Imagine that Skybound 2, I'll be like, holy shit! Like at this, that's my thing. Is like, I want somebody who is actually going to put the effort into the actual story. I just don't want the IP to be brought back. Be like, all right, we're gonna put somebody on there who's just gonna ruin the comic book. Like the IDW they had really good writers for the Ghostbusters comic books, which is really cool because this is before Afterlife. So basically they continued the story from 1 2, and they included the actual video game into the lore. So it'd be interesting that whoever picks it up, if they can continue like keeping not only the lore of the 2016 Ghostbusters and all that stuff, they combine all the be cool to see how they put Afterlife in there. As an alternate, it'd probably be a multiverse, but still, like that was the one thing I was really buying. Like I stopped buying from Marvel after the whole One More Day bullshit, and everything was just going crap over at Marvel.
I just want to point out to you that you accused our boy Zach over here of segueing off the Hasbro.
Well,
stuff.
I figure since we're never gonna get to that book anyway, so
Oh, is that how the case goes?
that's how it goes now.
Gigamon
But-
says, "I love Skybound. Who's gonna edit Hama though? Don't get me wrong. I love Hama. I have the Hama action figure. I don't know. I will be getting the new G.I. Joe book though. It's a good question. I don't
gonna edit
exactly
Hama?
know. I do know it won't be Heather Antos, so that's a plus.
That's true.
And I do
That's a
know.
plus, yeah.
I'm pretty positive. I don't know, but I'm pretty confident that Robert Kirkman will be acting as the de facto editor in chief. So while he may not be directly editing Hama, he'll at least be in the conversation, and he'll at least, be able to act kind of like, oh man,
Well,
man, my brain just does not work these days. Who's the greatest editor of all time?
Mark Greenwald.
No, the greatest editor of
Jim
all time.
Shooter.
Jim
Jim
Shooter.
Shooter.
Thank you, my boy. You got it, Zach. Zach's chomping for your job, my friend.
All right, I'm going to bed.
Like Jim Shooter did at Marvel. Like he stayed in touch with all the books. He didn't edit them directly, but he was in the conversation always into their direction and making sure that their quality didn't dip and things. And Kirkman's a great creative I think he's a creative. He's not just he's not a Rolodex manager like most of the editors today. So I think creatives benefit other creatives. We'll see. I'm trying to be positive. Hama obviously had talent. Hopefully
They're going to say, I thought you were going to say bring up Jim Shooter. Jim Shooter's going to come and edit Skybound.
that'd be amazing, right?
That would be amazing. yeah.
So
Be all excited, man.
Giga says he hopes the Skybound will put out the final IDW trade, issues 290 through 300. IDW just dropped it. He wants the complete trade collection. I can understand that as a fan. It's a possibility. I don't know exactly what they're doing. Are they going to have two different G.I. Joe universes going?
That's what it sounds like. So the Larry Hama G.I. Joe, from what I heard, Robert Kirkman did like this little mini interview. I think it was with like CBR or somebody. But he said that Hama is going to be writing his G.I. Joe line, picking up right where it left off with Marvel. But then the Joshua Williamson books, which is Duke and Cobra Commander, those are going to be taking place in a separate universe or timeline. So because he teased about having like these multiple timelines, almost like a multiverse.
Well, maybe these GI Joes are farther in the line because now because we
Maybe,
saw
yeah, it could be like a future line, maybe. Yeah,
yeah
future timeline. Could be.
because with what we just read, Void Rivals, we don't know how many years have passed.
That's true. Although they don't really mention that.
They don't mention
group.
GI Joe, but we do
Yeah.
know that what they find at the end, and
Right.
so
right.
we really don't know what the timeline, how it could be. That could be takes place in the future. That could be like in the past.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know. But I'd be interested to see if they just have Larry Hama be like continuing what he does for the old school fans, and then having Joshua Williamson running the tie-in. They basically the connecting the with the current timeline
Yeah.
going, which I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind having like a feature GI Joe. GI Joe.
If it's done right, yeah, no, I wouldn't mind at all. I would
I just-
imagine the two of them are probably like keeping notes on what the other is doing too. I would imagine.
So
They're
I just
both.
noticed.
I mean, go ahead.
I just noticed
Well,
something.
Yeah.
Take a look on the screen here, which I'm sharing
Yeah.
with you guys in the background.
Mm-hmm.
I just noticed this up on the trade dress under the Skybound logo. There's a little
Yeah.
EU, Extended Universe. I'm assuming
Yeah,
that's what
it's-
that means.
Yeah.
But they're actually
Ah,
marking that on the book.
I
So
didn't notice that.
if that's true, if there's gonna be, because I think look, I get why you would do a Larry Hama, let him just do his own thing, just continue off the Marvel story, but then you want to tie in your own crossover stuff. It's still
I
kind
think
of weird. It's still weird to me to do two, but if you mark it clearly like this, if fans can look on the book and they can see, like, oh, this is the EU version. We live in a world where like we get that, right? Like we understand the MCU is not Marvel Comics or the DCEU is not DC Comics.
Right.
It makes sense though to have two very different versions because there's people who are old school people who were kicked out
Mm-hmm.
and excluded. To get them to come back and hey, it's Larry Hama. Is continuing like what? So everybody who left Marvel because they didn't like the way Marvel and DC were going, the old school readers might come back and be like, dude, this is actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
It is, and it also has the added benefit, I think, of allowing you to experiment and do things with these properties that maybe
please
some
experiment.
diehard fans might be like, "What? This isn't my GI Joe. What are you doing? I don't want." Then they have like their regular book that's like, "Here's the pure book that you've liked." Also,
But,
so you get best
Mar-
of both worlds.
But Marnie's saying that, or no, not Marnie. Gigamex said IDW had two different Joe timelines already though, so it's something new.
Yeah.
He's-
Okay. Yeah, he said there was the Hama timeline. Now he says the IDW timeline started with your boy, with Chuck Dixon,
Yep.
and then went off the rails with Sitterson.
Mhm.
I think, dude, how wild would it be? I don't think Kirkman would have any beef with Chuck Dixon.
You know what I want though?
How wild would it be if he got Chuck Dixon to come back and write?
What I wanted though for this so badly to be like the Walking Dead 2000.
Oh, dude, no, I do still want to see. I want to see a Walking Dead 2000. I love that miniseries. That was a wild miniseries. I dug that. But
Speaking
man,
of
I'm
wild
excited.
miniseries, let's dive into this book before Froggy gets cranky.
Before he gets hopping mad.
Before
Before-
nice
before-
one. Nice one.
Yes, before I jump in your throat again.
Oh.
Ew.
Yeah, let's censor that one out. Oh, we're live? Dang it. Can't do it. Okie doke. So here we go. I'm gonna give kind of a synopsis. This is the new book by Robert Kirkman, ongoing series of Void Rivals. Spoiler alerts, heavy spoilers, heavy. I wish I would. This is one of those cases people say, "Why do you care about spoilers, Ash?" And I'm like, because sometimes things are better when you don't expect them or you don't know that, And I read this book. I didn't have the plot spoil, but I did have the fact that this was in the Transformers G.I. Joe shared universe. And I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, I wonder how they're going to do that. So in the back of my mind, I knew that was there. So when in this book, when it's revealed how, like I was like, oh, I wish I would have never known because something happens.
I also want to point out, if you're avoiding spoilers for this book, do not look at the second printing covers because they don't give a shit anymore. They're just telling you.
If you're avoiding spoilers for this book, you've already been spoiled because we've already brought up what's in this book.
Yes, we did. We did spoil that.
Ash's favorite character.
It is.
I didn't realize that was. I did not.
It's not my favorite overall character. We'll get to it.
Okay.
So the book opens up. It's on a planet. There's a ship. It's a desolate planet. We see someone breaking out of the ship. It's got this glove, which is called Handy Droid.
Android. Yeah, I love.
And I was just laughing. And apparently it's like this glove. It's an automated glove. So the pilot is knocked out, and the glove is acting on its own, and it's like pulling him around the desert. It doesn't work quite as well on a still frame as I think this would work in like if this were like a film, like moving pictures. But it drags him over to the med kit.
No, it looks like
unlocks, and the thing is sentient, so the glove's talking, and it hits the button to get the med kit, and then launches the thing far away when it has to keep drag him further. A little bit of comic relief, kind of sets a nice lighthearted tone. The pilot wakes up, and he realizes that he's crashed. He goes over with some monologue. He's trying to remember what happened. He got in a fight with an alien species. They got attached to the gravitational pull of a comet, and it spun him out of control. Blah 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 blah. And crash landed on this planet somewhere, but they don't even know where he's at. And he thinks he's alone when all of a sudden, thunk, huh? Look over. We get the nice splash. Oh, this is such a great comic.
Yeah, you got in him and another pilot, an enemy pilot, fought each other, and he crashed, and he said like, what's the odds of her? And it's like, this other person like landed, like, nah, slim to none.
Slim to none. But I love this. This trope is one of my favorite comic tropes. Is when things happen and you get the like, look what's going on, and you get the page turn, and it's a big 2-page splash with the title Void Rivals. And so there's the enemy, and he goes to go for his gun. Up, click, click. It doesn't work. Damn it! Yep. And then they go into fisticuffs, and they get in a fight, and they tumble down the hillside. All this is like extremely tropey, but it's an example of like when tropes are done well, you don't even care. You don't sit there and go, oh, I've seen this before, done it before. It's just he set it up with a nice lighthearted tone at the beginning. It's fun. It doesn't matter that you go and look at this book and go, oh, this is like Enemy Mine. You don't even care.
Nope.
He's going to bash the skull in of the enemy with a rock, and then basically the cries for mercy, and he can't do it. And, they kind of have a stalemate. He's like, And meanwhile, the Handroid is apparently his race is controlled by some complete totalitarian regime. Apparently, it's treason to like not kill the enemy.
Yeah,
so the droid just like basically trying to talk him into doing it. He realizes that wait a second, what's the like? What if we scan her ship and my ship? What? Like, can we put enough pieces together to make a working ship to get out of here? And
I want to see real quickly. I like the fact that they both notice, like, man, our ships are almost very similar.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We'll come back to it. I'm just trying to blast through the basics of the plot here. So
you're leaving a lot of holes.
I am, because so fill them in when we come back. I'm just trying to give the base rough thing. Because like I don't want to just read the comic to anyone. So
okay.
What do you think this is, Ashley, on Lullabies?
So if you want to just summarize it up, 2 people crashed. They're independent enemies from different races, and then they basically work together to build their ship. But to stumble across something else.
Am I not doing this good enough for you?
I'm just saying. You want to be vague.
I didn't want to be vague. I just there's a happy medium somewhere in the middle of like too much detail and not enough. So they decide they could put the 2 ships together. They could actually probably make something that works. there's still some tension between the two, um, and they're working on the ship, and it's like, okay, great, things going, and it's like, wait a second, did you plug that in the right way up? And then boom, blows it up. He tries to protect her from the blast, and then which she, of course, you get off of me because he's the enemy. And then she's blasting him with his stuff, and he's like, "What?" But because he's on fire, and there's this kind of like fun. How
Yeah,
do you say like there's like an awkwardness to it because they're like enemies, but then there's
they're kind of flirting too.
kind of
Yeah, kind of.
that's a stretch. That's a stretch. But because remember they're aliens, like, so I don't think that they're really flirting, but they realize like, oh damn,
Wait,
like,
aliens don't flirt. They're not allowed to.
well,
Only
in
humans
most
flirt.
regular people don't flirt with other species, but some people do.
Yeah, a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Zach's one home down south.
I know Zach knows.
What?
But
What on earth?
He likes dogs.
Dragging me into this? God, dog it.
so they're like, oh dang, there's no fixing this. That's it. We're both dying. And she walks away and says, I have no wish to die with an Agorian. He's like, wait, where are you going? And so he doesn't give up. He's trying to figure out a way of salvaging things. And she ends up coming running back. She's like, you're not going to believe what I found. It's like, huh? So they go and they look. It's ta-da! It's a ship. And those with very keen eyes, like Gigamock, might recognize this ship
Yeah.
just from the limited. And he's like, "Oh wow, this is amazing!" And how long has this been going on? Who cares? It's a ship. Let's see if it works. So they're
And
digging.
they get the noise, chunk, chunk, chunk. It's like, I love that when they have.
Yeah. So they're digging. They plug in a power source, and yeah, ching 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 ching, and it's a transformer.
That was pretty good, actually. It sounded like I was listening to the cartoon for a second.
Ken, and this is the part where I was like, I wish I would have had zero clue that this was tied in, because this would have really got me. I would have been like, what? And not only is it any Transformer, this is my favorite Transformers, Jetfire. They find out, and he's analyzing himself, and he realizes, he's like, how long have I been here? And they're like, oh well, how about, we don't know. And he starts just like, my word, I'm detecting significant micro. I can't read this right. Let me start over. My word.
Microscopic fungal growth.
I said, let me read it right.
Yeah, he had some type of growth or something.
Microscopic fungal.
Never mind, I won't read it. So he's like, it indicates I've been here for millions of years. Cybertron, after all these years, I'm sorry, I've got to. And fly. Wait, no, what? They're like, no, wait. And he takes off, and they're like, oh crap. So they're sitting here, they got no ship. They don't know what to do, and then they wait, like, maybe we could do that, like our suits. Maybe we can, cannibalize our suits and make our ship work. And they're like, what? And he says, the atmosphere is breathable. The only thing is that the radiation, so we'll have to be quick. And then the other one's like, I'm not gonna take off my helmet and all this stuff. And like, are you afraid are you afraid that I'm gonna have to look at your misshapen face? It's like, and then they take off their helmets, and surprise, they're both human. Which I saw that kind of coming. As soon as they were talking about taking off their helmets, I was like, they're gonna be the same race.
They're both Vision.
Yeah, they do kind of look like Vision.
So I think
we're
gonna discover, like, there's the whole thing is they're not supposed to take off the helmets, and there's all these like rules, like that the guy on the left, his race, like, has rules of like communication and things like that, and like he has to kill them. And so I think that this is all part of keeping some sort of secret between these two races about who they are and their origins and things like that. So to me, I think that's very intriguing. I like world building like that. And so now these guys have both violated all sorts of rules for their own governments. They're going to probably be aligned by just the fact that they're now probably going to be enemies in their own land, or wanted in their own lands. and maybe go off and have some great space adventures. We'll find out.
Maybe
But
they'll have SpaceX.
they both have weird gems in their forehead. So I don't know if they're exactly human, but they appear to be the same race. And he says, we're the
Yeah.
same, just like my vision. What vision? And that's it. What vision? So that's it. Dude, Kirkman knows how to launch a comic book. He did the same thing for me in Oblivion Song, which is the same writer artist, where you get that first issue and it's just enough teaser to be like, what is going on? I would need to know more. And
Well, that was me in Walking Dead, man. Him just
yeah.
waking up in the middle of nowhere. And then walks out, he's like, dead inside, don't open. Like, what?
A lot of comics out there, I tell people, I'm like, yeah, give it like 5 or 6 issues and it'll like really open up. But Kirkman is like, that gives you that first issue, and it's like, here you go. And
Yep.
I'm like, I'm already going, I need to know more. What's going on? There barely anything happens in that book, realistically, but it's just enough to tease you.
He said
and
it's a handroid. It's a handroid is a metaphor. One race is male, one is female. So she's from the female warriors, probably her land, and he's a bunch of guys on his probably.
that's a possibility. Yeah, that's a good. Although that would be kind of weird because how would they reproduce?
Well, maybe they're clones.
Maybe it's like a Matrix thing where they're all in pods.
I suppose, yeah, it is the future. So it's not the extended universe; it's the Energon universe, apparently.
Yeah, they're calling it the Energon universe.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
So that's pretty cool.
Just when I thought I was gonna get all tired of these verse names and everything, now I'm like, okay, Robert Kirkman's actually got my attention here.
Well, he's at least he's not saying verse. It's universe. I'm with you there. I'm tired of something verse.
Yes. So this is gonna be here. So I wonder if they're related to any of the G.I. Joe people.
Well, if they're aliens, I don't think so.
Yeah.
We don't know. We don't know. They could be from Earth.
Could be, but I
remember there's colonies. Remember, who knows?
I hear you, but my thing is like, okay, you've got G.I. Joe, you've got Transformers, and those are two like really big popular names. I'm perfectly okay if Void Rivals ends up being like its own thing, its own like these aliens. They are like their own creation.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I would be okay with that. I don't think. I mean, if it turns out that they do have some connection, if there's some type of alien race that I'm blanking on that is connected to G.I. Joe, cool. But if not, I'm perfectly fine with it.
I laugh like the two warrior races. One's Cobra, one's G.I. Joe.
I'm hoping. First of all, I'm hoping that there's not too much crossover. I don't want this to just be like a Transformers G.I. Joe spinoff. I'm really hoping that Void Rivals it's its own thing and can stand on its own. And that when they do cross, that it's like for important reasons. But also I'm kind of hoping that it's in a way of where like wherever these characters are, wherever this story is, opens up some sort of plot line that ends up involving the Transformers and eventually like the G.I. Joe, where it's like this universal threat or something that these characters all have to sort of like combine their efforts towards in different ways. That way I think might be kind of cool.
Like I said, I did like the whole Evil Dead 2 kind of like, nod in the very beginning, where it's crawling, pulling him. Remember, it's digging down and pulling him forward. Instead of going for a knife that's going to kill him, it's going something that's going to help him, though.
Yeah.
And then, the whole enemy mind thing, where two people, that was another thing, too. That was kind of... Farscape was kind of like that, too. You had the peacekeepers where everybody hated them, and you find out that she's actually, like, becomes one of them, like, their friends. So...
Yeah. So... Gigamox says it looks cool. I absolutely say I'm not immediately keen to have a verse where G.I. Joe and Transformers interplay. They did it in the Marvel books, and I get there's appeal, but this book seems pretty cool, and I do like Kirkman's sensibilities. And I'm with you on that. And I think what we talked about earlier, if Kirkman is doing a standalone G.I. Joe book with Larry Hama and so forth that's kind of like quarantined, I think that'll give you the best of both worlds, because it'll give you that land of like, hey, I just want my pure G.I. Joe. I don't want him crossing over with My Little Pony and all that. Like, then you have that. But if you are like, hey, what if, like, it'd be kind of curious, like, what if? And again, I also think it's going to matter, like, how much crossover is it? Is it like where their stories are constantly intermingling? I think that'll get too much. But if
Yeah.
it's more of one of those things where it's like, hey, we all exist in the same universe, and every once in a while our paths will cross, but our stories are kind of our own, right?
Like-
like
my-
here, where you saw Jetfire, and they're like, "Who are you?" And he's just like, "I gotta go," and he's gone. Like, all that matters is for
So-
the readers who know who that is, but otherwise, it's not crucial to the storyline. You just know,
It's like
it's just
when
there
Jet-
to tell you that. Yeah, go ahead.
What I would like is this now, because they released Jetfire, so now this Jetfire's his venture continues in Daniel Warren Johnson's.
This
Comes in his
Daniel
flavor.
Warren Johnson's?
Is he doing? Is he doing? Yeah, he's doing Transformers. So
Yeah,
Yes.
he-
imagine if Jetfire randomly shows up and explain like, well, this is where he's been all these years.
Well, here's an interesting thing. Yeah, dude, he says millions of years.
Yeah.
That's what really piqued my interest, because I'm like, oh, is this going to be like a weird timeline? Is this Void Rivals take place way in the future?
we don't
We
know.
don't even know what the context is. But
Oh
but
yeah, what if Daniel Warren Johnson takes place like the millions of years before Jetfire goes off?
well, here's another thing. The Energon universe doesn't say that these books are all in the same time frame,
Yep.
right? Think about
Right.
like Legion of Superheroes. Legion of Superheroes is in the DC universe, but it's 1,000 years ahead.
Right.
What if Void Rivals is in the same universe,
The future.
but it's like way in the future?
Yep.
So you can have a Transformers book where the Transformers are
Or-
on Earth, and the Transformers, because G.I. Joe's on Earth, will like meet each other from time to time, perhaps. But because the Transformers can live for millions of years, their future selves can cross over with the Void Rivals characters for
Well-
whatever stories are going on there. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if
Yeah.
that's what the case is, but that would be kind of neat too, and that would be a
I
way
would-
of keeping them
yeah,
separate.
So I would have Jetfire never made it to Earth. The rest of Transformers are on Earth. So they're normal timeline. But then Jetfire finally shows up, and you can do that too.
Maybe.
So,
We just gotta. Unfortunately, this is one of those situations where we don't have a time machine, so we just have to wait and see.
yeah, we don't. We'll have to wait and see. It's gonna be a long. Well, it's gonna be a long.
Well,
wait
I'm
for
not.
this
I'm
book.
not allowed to
Not
tamper with
super
time anymore.
long. What is it? Transformers is in October. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to use my time machine anymore.
Damn it.
The last time I tempered though, that
Darn it.
we got all new, all different.
Darn it! You're the one.
Damn it. He's
It
to
was me
blame.
all along, Zach.
Daniel Warren Johnson on Transformers is enough to make me buy a Transformers book.
For real, I'm not even a huge Transformers fan. Like I quote unquote liked the Michael Bay movies, but like my sister's a bigger fan than I am. Like she
Jonathan
just-
Hickman comes in and writes a Transformers book.
Hey yo, I would read a Hickman Transformers.
It's so
Absolutely.
dark.
Hickman doesn't write dark. Hickman writes sci-fi, which would really be right at home with Transformers. So
I don't know if I'd want a Hickman Transformers.
I
What
would
I like
read it.
about Daniel Warren Johnson is he writes heart.
he does write heart, and I
And
think he's got that heavy metal style.
if anyone
his
ever
heart.
watched the Transformers movie from 1987,
You've got the
OG.
power.
you've got the power. You got the touch.
Yeah.
Um,
You got the power. Yeah. Dun, dun, dun.
that movie is Daniel Warren Johnson. Like, it just, I'm
Really
like,
is, yeah.
it feels so much like way he writes. So I'm super excited to see what he's gonna do with this book.
Yep.
I know that there's no way he'd be doing this book if he wasn't partial to the property.
Yep.
Like, because Daniel Warren Johnson just does his own thing all the time. So if Kirkman got him to do this book, it's got to be because Daniel Warren Johnson likes the Transformers.
And then you're gonna have Stan Bush sing in the background.
Yeah. Dude, I will have to get the Transformer soundtrack so I can listen while I'm reading this book.
I want to get Stan Bush's, like, he's got a whole collection of songs he's done for other movies and stuff. It's awesome. He did one for Kickboxer. Remember?
So at the end of this book, I won't read this whole thing here, but this is a thing from Robert Kirkman where he talks about this book, and he's he's like, obviously, what is this? Is the coolest thing ever, or the coolest thing ever? And he talks about, as the series progresses, you're going to get to see the Sacred Ring and discover a whole new cast of characters that reside there, as well as a ton of familiar faces that will drop in the way you least expect it. The series continues my goal of bringing new ideas into this world while also allowing me to play in a sandbox that I've loved for so many years. I'm typing this in an office surrounded by Transformers and G.I. Joe statues, toys, posters, comics, etc. I really can't look in a direction and not see something from one of those two brilliant concepts. And hopefully, at some point in the future, we'll get to see Darak and Salila, who are the two characters in this book, standing alongside them. So buckle up for a wild ride. We're only scratching the surface of all the awesome things that are in store for you. Thanks for jumping into this on the ground floor. And man, oh man, I cannot wait to see our plans unfold and get to share what we have in store for you. Robert Kirkman. So,
Yep.
yeah, this is, and he talks about the Transformers movie earlier in this part. He talks about how when he was 8 years old, he went and saw the movie, and it changed him. So I'm just super excited about this book, man. Like I'm not even the world's biggest. I like G.I. Joe and Transformers. Like as a kid, they had a lot of nostalgia for me, but I never really got the comics and stuff. I kind of more appreciated them from a distance.
Yeah.
And I did love that Transformers movie. But to me, it was always of like, okay, there's a comic book. It's probably mid. It's probably whatever. Like, I'm more into X-Men. And that's just how it was. It wasn't like a hate thing. But now I see this and I'm like, oh, these properties are getting real love put into them. It makes me excited to see, okay, what are you gonna do? Like,
right.
You're now pulling me towards them.
I still need that Transformers Indiana Jones crossover. Just Transformer belongs in a museum.
Oh gosh.
Model T Ford is a Transformer.
I don't want Lucasfilm anywhere near any other properties.
No.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that same boat.
Speaking of being in boats, it's time to talk about Green Lantern.
What does Green Lantern have to do with boats?
That's a really good question, Zach, and we'll get to that sometime never. So Green Lantern is written by your guys' boy, Jeremy Adams.
Yep.
Who, if I didn't know any better, I think you guys had a man crush on. But
I will neither confirm nor deny.
that's all I ever heard talking about was his Flash all the time. This is the best. So this is a Green Lantern. Now, I am not a Jeremy Adams fan. I'm not a anti-fan. I just don't really know much about his work. So I decided to try out the Green Lantern books just to see and see how I would like them. See how much it'd be I thought it'd be fun to see compared to see how much you guys like them. Is Jeremy Adams a one-hit wonder, or can he write other types of books?
It's funny you say that because I'm not a Green Lantern fan.
Okay.
That's true. RDV is not a Green Lantern fan.
So this book opens up kind of also in a fun, lighthearted way. And you see these police, they got a street cordoned off, and they're like, "Did you call it in?" Man, I called the FBI, the National Guard. Hell, I even called that number for Booster Gold. No answer. Did you try Ghost? But and immediately I had to stop and like smile because I knew RDV probably liked that panel.
Exactly what comes up next after this. Sure, yeah.
Come on, you tell me you didn't get a little half smile when you read that.
I got a little half chub.
All right, there you go. I said smile, but if you want to take it other directions, we'll just keep
I'll
moving
make
on.
this weird for you. Oh yeah.
Oh God.
Yikes.
I'm a little half chub right now.
No, please, no, stop. So it comes crashing in. It turns out it's the Manhunter from the previous issue. And Hal Jordan dispatches him with no problem. And he's like, I'm back. At least I think I'm back. And it turns out that Hal Jordan took the Manhunter armor and used his willpower and forged his own Green Lantern ring. For those of you who've been following DC Comics, to which I have barely almost not at all been following, but I do know enough from the grapevine to know that the main power battery was destroyed, and a lot of the Green Lanterns don't have any rings because there's no more power battery, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, oh, that's really interesting what you're trying to do. And then I always thought to myself, well, wait, Hal Jordan can just make his own ring out of sheer willpower. He's like transcended Green Lanterns. And so
That's
sure
true.
enough,
He
the
is
book does exactly what I thought. So I was kind of smiling to see that Jeremy Adams is at least as knowledgeable about Green Lantern as I was. That's always a plus because I'm not that knowledgeable. So if you don't know as much as me, we're in a bad situation. So he's flying around and sees this quirky team of criminals called the Demolition Team. This felt very Marvel to me. This seemed like a very Marvel thing to do.
It seems like
it's the Wrecking Crew. It's the Wrecking Crew, but in DC.
When I was thinking about that, I was also thinking Damage Control.
Well, no, Damage Control is an organization that rebuilds. They don't steal.
They're criminals too, aren't they?
No.
Mm-mm.
They're like a comic relief. In the comic books, they're a comic relief thing, and they're about the people who clean up after the superheroes destroy the city.
Yeah.
Oh, they're basically powers.
Kinda, to an extent, yeah.
So,
but these guys, they reminded me a lot. Like one of them's even wearing like a big shiny steel helmet, like what's his name in the Wrecking Crew?
Yeah,
So,
this just felt like a very 80s Marvel villain team that Spider-Man would show up and stop or something.
It works for what it needs to do, though.
It does work for what it needs to do. So they're breaking in, they're gonna steal some stuff, and Hal Jordan is on the scene. He makes his little
the guy knocks over a gravestone, and they're all superstitious because he's. I love what he says about what Bam says. Bam says most criminals are very superstitious, so like if you can still fear in them. And
so he uses the ring in a really clever way, which I think the ring would be effective, and makes all these like specters and stuff, and he's like, "Join us in eternity," and they freak out, and they all run away, and they basically go to the cops and like arrest us, and it's kind of corny, but it works for the tone
vengeance.
Of the book.
I am the night.
Yeah,
I love these.
He makes a bullhorn with the ring. You can't outrun your fate. I am vengeance. I am the night.
It's really funny too because Hal Jordan is like he's one of the characters in the Justice League that Batman gets aggravated with the most. So to see him kind of just like pick that up from Batman, like I just got a smile reading.
Now I can't help but also think that this Hal Jordan feels a lot like the movie Hal Jordan.
Yes.
This feels like a Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, I love
Hal Jordan.
Well, he's all Hal Jordan. I mean, Ryan Reynolds was could have been a good pick to play him. Just the way they went about going with the movie was the stinker.
Well, what made me mad, it wasn't Ryan Reynolds for me.
He's kind of always been that, not always, but he does do that kind of comedic. He has like a Han Solo-ish vibe to him, where it's like he'll defuse or look at or handle situations in different ways.
Yeah,
it's funny you should say that because in this book, hold
Yeah.
on. In this book, there was a distinct point we'll get to later where I was like, this feels like Indiana Jones. Like the personality of this character feels to me, or not Indiana, like a Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
if like a 30-something-year-old Harrison Ford would have been perfect to play this character. Go ahead, RDB.
Totally.
I was just gonna say that the only thing I didn't care for the Ryan Reynolds movie wasn't Ryan Reynolds acting in the movie. It was the cloud monster at the end.
Oh
Yeah,
well, yeah.
it was
If
a
they would've had
flawed movie. It was.
Nobody liked that. Yeah.
I mean, I thought I would have done a lot better if they wouldn't have gone the Cloud Monster. Same thing with the Fantastic Four. They wouldn't have gone with Cloud Monster. They actually just showed a giant freaking Galactus.
Everyone knows
Awesome.
cloud monsters are much more interesting. Come on now.
Oh yeah, of course. Totally.
So he's flying around and he's, just like reveling in the fact that he loves flying, blah, blah, blah. And he's going up into space.
He's testing it
And
out because it's pilot. Yeah.
he reaches a point and all of a sudden the power cuts out. And he's
Yep.
like, shit. And he starts falling. You've got to be kidding me. That's not the kind of line I would say. I think I would just be shitting my pants if I were in his position right now. But
Well,
wha-
you figure he probably knows that he can call out to Superman or somebody, and
He admits it. He had mentioned something about Superman actually in this issue.
yeah, he something about like he was kind of hoping that Superman might, or he thought Superman might see him flying around, maybe. Something
Yeah.
to that extent.
Yeah. Well, go here where Superman, but this guy's eyes on me, but
Yeah.
so that all was a month ago. And so we cut to the present day and he's riding his bike and he goes to his trailer. And we see Kilowog and we get some nice bro banter between Kilowog and Jordan, which I appreciated, helped kind of give some characterization, which is kind of needed. This is only in issue number 2, so
this
feel-
dew of the mountain tastes like a Dorian puddle water. Come on, dude. Love it.
I thought this was fine. Like I'm not a world's biggest Green Lantern fan, so I have not read a ton of Green Lantern comics. So for me, this is helpful. And I have to imagine, like, if you're launching a new series, you're gonna get people who've never read Green Lantern before. So you need space like this where,
Yeah.
like, people are like, who is this character? Like, what's going on? And we cut to the next day. Now, for those of you that didn't watch our last episode or haven't been following along, Hal Jordan got fired from his ex's company as a test pilot because he wrecked a drone or whatever. He was reckless. But he ends up getting a job as the pilot of the corporate jet.
Only
So,
after he plays a game of basically getting everybody to move positions.
Yeah.
I thought this was hilarious. I
He wasn't
love
fired.
this.
He wasn't fired. He was demoted to the mailroom.
Yeah, and he's like, wait, how you were in the mailroom and what were you doing here? Come on, Carol, you know me better than that. I may start at the ground, but I'm always gonna aim for the sky. And it shows 24 hours, just 24 hours earlier, he's in the mailroom, and then he gets promoted, it becomes a driver, and then he's a driver for the pilots who's retiring. He takes them, and by the end of the day, he's got the job. It's just, I thought it was because
That was great.
Jeremy Adams does a really good job of setting the tone that you understand
Mm-hmm.
as a reader. Like, okay, a little tongue in cheek, it's fine. And look at her just staring, like he's he's got the shit eating grin, and she's just staring, and that's her fiance and the blonde. So there's
Yeah.
like an awkward love triangle there. So they're in the plane. She's got resting bitch face. Fiance, of course, is too timid. We all know from this. See, I like this panel here because the way the fiance is like so submissive to her, like, just tells you like, okay, he's too beta. Like he's not gonna be the one. This is going to allow Hal Jordan to eventually step forward. And we've
Right.
seen this so many times before. And this is kind of also where I felt the Han Solo, like you're talking about. It just the chemistry felt
Mhm.
very much like early Han Solo with Princess Leia type stuff.
Right. Totally.
So
Absolutely.
when
Yeah.
they're flying the plane and everything, he kind of nudges a little bit, gives a little turbulence, knocks the drinks. Pretty boy's got to go to the bathroom to like clean his shirt. He uses his ring powers to, like, lock the door. Then he sits next to her. They have some. This is where they get the Princess Leia banter.
Yeah, this reminded me a lot of Empire Strikes Back, the banter and everything. Yeah,
Yeah. And
scruffy
then
looking.
we see this ominous red in front of it through the cockpit, and he's like, "Tower, this is Ferris Flight 118. I have visual contact with something northeast of my flight path. Can you confirm, Tower?
Ghostbusters.
Anyone?" And then back to the banter and blah blah blah, and it's like, "Hal, I need you in here right now." And
But I
then
love
this is
he locked the door though on the guy, so the guy couldn't get out of the bathroom.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, very much Ghostbusters, which the very first panel talks about Ghostbusters. I think that was really funny. And then you basically flying through a storm of spectral entities, whatever these
Well,
are.
it looks like you got the writer up there with the sickle out there, upper left corner.
I don't
The four horsemen.
I don't recognize any of
course.
these as specific characters, but
Yeah.
and that's the end of the comic. So, well, you get this backup because DC does the stupid backups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although
Okay,
the
so
backup is fairly interesting. I
that's
think.
fine, except for the trace art.
Yeah, kind of. John Stewart does look a lot like Ray Fisher from Justice League, the cyborg guy.
Just if you look at the art in this story, it doesn't look like a way an artist would draw. Like the poses look out of place.
Why does he also look like he's like 16?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, he looks younger than
He's
John
way
Stewart.
young. John Stewart's in his 40s, man.
Well,
Yeah.
black don't crack, so I don't know. But it just that awkwardness of like when you paste pictures into panels and it like never seems to flow right. It just seems to be like awkward, looking in weird directions and things like that. It has that look to me, which makes me feel like these were traced. Like here in the garden, this just looks like Google up woman gardening and now just trace, and I don't know. It just doesn't seem right.
You should just pay attention to the dialogue, not the arts.
Yeah, well. And then when you get over to here, this seems more like just free form art.
Yeah, this is Guy versus the Nightstorm.
Guy.
Why not?
Oh, you mean not? I thought you meant the name Guy. You're calling him a guy.
No, it's Guy Gardner.
No, it's
That's not
Shepherd.
Guy Gardner.
Lantern Shepherd. Guy Gardner's.
Okay, my bad. It looked like
yeah,
Guy Gardner.
that was actually throwing me off too because I was like, who the hell is Lantern Shepherd? Like,
Yeah.
and he's an Earthling. I'm like, how many human Green Lanterns are there? Do we keep making more? And so this is going to tie in apparently to the Night Terrors. We get to see more of them. Now, the only thing I am kind of interested about this is this tying into the Scott Snyder story, which he did with John Stewart, where he became the Ultraviolet Lantern?
That would be an excellent question.
Because she makes a comment here about that she's kind of like looking for John Stewart.
Yeah.
At some point, it says, "He who slew my firstborn, it was thee whose heart I came to stop, not these others."
See, look at that's John right there. Look at him.
Yeah.
Look, he's bald. He's old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other one looks like it's like a prequel story.
Yeah, I think there's part that takes place in the
past.
In the past. I think it's a different timeline deal.
I don't think so because she says here the time of the lanterns is done. So it makes me think like he's kind of just retiring. And this story doesn't make sense to me because there's no like 24 hours later or a year later or whatever. It clicks over to here and I don't know what's going on, which is fine because it's not the same character until all of a sudden John Stewart appears out of nowhere. I'm like, wait, what just happened? Last I saw you in a garden with your grandma. What? And now you just appear levitating.
He was daydreaming. Who knows?
And so this guy, this Lantern Shepherd, he's like a putz of a Green Lantern. You're John Stewart. No one's seen you for an age. Okay, whatever. Anyways, but I do love the Ultraviolet Lantern. And this is, I think, where DC messed up. I think Scott Snyder was genius by turning John Stewart into Ultraviolet Lantern, because as Green Lantern, I always felt like he was just token. And when Ultraviolet Lantern would allow him to shine under his own identity, he's the only one. He was the only one who had the power to like manifest the ultraviolet ring or whatever. Like, I was like, that's great. And then they didn't keep it. But it sounds like here they may be bringing the story back based on these lines. It's kind of vague though, but they do have the Green Lantern. So they're purple and they have the Green Lantern symbol on them. So that's why I'm wondering if it is, and I'm really hoping that's the case.
That would be cool. I did like the.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought it was Guy. Look at how he stances now.
Yeah, but he's got like a faux hawk, and Guy wouldn't have a faux hawk.
You'd be surprised what happens. DC Comics.
That's true, but they do call him Lantern Shepherd, so
yeah,
that's a clear indicator. Now here we see John Stewart in his new Emerald Knight form. I guess is what they're doing with him now.
He's Steel.
He kind of does look a little bit like Steel.
John Henry, you have been chosen.
So, and that's it. That's the backup story. So, blah blah blah, whatever. I don't really care about it. The only thing I really cared about was the villain, like John Stewart and Lantern Shepherd. Who cares? But what do you guys think of this book?
I thought it was slightly above mid.
Slightly above mid. All right.
Oh boy. Okay, so I will preface by saying
I'll give it a 4 out of 5.
God, he just wounded. It's like he's twisting the knife in my back.
That's not a bad
rating. 3.5. Slightly, maybe
4 out of 5 is a good rating.
Yeah,
that's what I'd give it too. I'd give it a 4 out of 5.
I'd say So this is the beginning of it. Here's the thing. I have been a Hal Jordan fan since I got into reading comics. He was my first favorite DC hero.
He was my first crush.
And as far as comics, he's my first comic man crush. Yeah. No, I like so far what I've been seeing with issues 1 and 2. It's kind of a back to basics kinda to Hal Jordan. Because Hal hasn't been proper Green Lantern in a while. It's always been
Guardians.
It's been John Stewart on Earth, or it's been there was Jessica Cruz and Simon Baz during Rebirth. It hadn't been Hal. I was on the Justice League for a minute when New 52 relaunched, and then they had him just like off in space the entire time. So seeing him back on Earth, seeing him, kind of reunite, quote unquote, with Carol, it's just like this reintroductory phase. But
giving him a motorcycle was cool though.
So far, I think Jeremy Adams has handled and nailed the tone of him perfectly so far. He's kind of got, like you said, a little bit of that Harrison Ford charm, but he also kind of has that Tom Cruise, that Maverick mentality.
Really,
he's the test pilot. He likes the adrenaline. He likes to, go fast and everything. So I think Jeremy Adams has so far he's struck a good balance
Hear me out. Tom Cruise for an older Green Lantern.
Nah, we don't need an older Green Lantern.
Yes, we do.
Lantern.
Because we could have Kyle be the new hero.
Nah, Kyle. Look, I like Kyle, but nah. You need to establish Hal because Hal is the greatest Green Lantern. People will try to tell you it's not. Hal is canonically. They call him the greatest.
If Tom Cruise had control of a movie doing Green Lantern, it'd be awesome.
I'm going to disagree with you on that.
I disagree.
I don't think he's enough of a comic nerd. I don't think he's enough of a nerd.
He loved Flash.
Yeah. That makes me doubt his judgment that much more. But no, so far I like it. It's not it's not something like big or heavy hitting like when they did Green Lantern Rebirth. That was a real big, like heavy punching, emotion punching story. Blackest Night was like this huge epic space zombie story. This doesn't have to be that. This is just kind of, like I said, it's just kind of getting new readers acquainted with them because, like I said, he hadn't really been front and center for a while. But if you're a longtime reader of Hal Jordan, this, it's kind of like just kind of like I said, a reintroduction to him. So I think he's been doing really good so far.
Well, I've been enjoying it. I really like this page here.
Yeah. Motivation.
This little, here's like a sample of the dialogue where what's this guy's name again?
Kilowog.
Kilowog. Yeah, thanks.
Basically, his drill sergeant when he was training as a.
As I say this with a lot of love, Jordan. Quit whining. But tell me how you really feel. I'm not here to play Katamari and footsie with you. Listen, I've seen ring slingers come and go, and I ain't never seen anyone like you. You fashioned a ring from an old manhunter, out of sheer will. You're telling me that someone that can do that can't find a way to make it work down here? Barflats. Whoa, language. And just, it's backing up what you were just saying, that Hal Jordan is something different entirely. He's not just a Green Lantern. And that's really important because there's thousands of Green Lanterns. And I don't say that to be hyperbolic. There are literally thousands of Green Lanterns. So when you're just one of them, you're not really special. But comic books are about people who are special, right? Superman is special. Spider-Man is special. Iron Man is special. Batman. All these characters are special. And when you start making clones of them, figuratively or literally, you dilute them. And this is why I hate legacy characters, by the way. But not to steer down that rabbit hole. But this is important about Hal Jordan, in my opinion, because if you say, okay, there are Green Lanterns and they are badasses and they can do things, but Hal Jordan is something else entirely, even to them. All of a sudden, that takes Hal Jordan and it turns him into like Super Green Lantern. And now all of a sudden, you're like, okay, great. He's not just anyone with a ring. Oh, I give a ring. Look, you can be a Green Lantern too. That's who cares? But you can't be Hal Jordan. And it's time. I'm glad to see DC going back and remembering that's the case, because before they were literally just handing out rings.
Yep. And they started to try to do some interesting stuff with them. I don't know. I'll be interested to see with Jeremy Adams if he or Philip Kennedy Johnson if they do anything or if they continue it. But yeah, no, I do like, because like I said, Hal Jordan, they said because like Kilowog, like he says in the panel, he was able to create a Green Lantern ring out of sheer willpower. That's something that no other Lantern is able to do. So he is canonically the greatest Green Lantern ever, which is because part of the thing is when he first becomes a Green Lantern, he kind of gets looked down on and laughed at because he was the only human Green Lantern at the time, and everybody thought these humans were like these dumb backwoods Hicks aliens. And Hal ends up becoming the best of them.
And this is why I hated New 52, where they decided to make, hey, Kyle he's so much better than Hal. He could good channel all the different lanterns just by will.
See, I didn't read. I wasn't huge into Kyle Rayner at the time. Now I'm starting to like him a little bit more. I'm reading through like Grant Morrison's JLA, where he's the main Green Lantern. I'm starting to come around to him. He's got his own. He's got his own quirks and flaws.
The whole New 52 is the version of Hal Jordan Green Lantern has been looked down as the worst run ever, because not only did they have Hal no longer be able to basically get dumped by Carol again, and she goes with this new other Lantern, Kyle Rayner, and basically decide he has the power to, if I want to be a Red Lantern, I'm a Red Lantern. If I want to be a Blue Lantern, I'm a Blue Lantern. Just by thought, he becomes the most powerful Lantern.
Yeah, well, wasn't he the White Lantern? Or
the White Lantern. Yeah. It was so dumb. Like Hal get pushed over. Like, I don't mind legacy characters, but the legacy characters be where the character can no longer be the hero anymore, like Batman Beyond. That's the only time I like having a legacy character.
Well, I do know I mean, I like I said, I haven't read the story, so I'm not entirely sure. I need to go and read it. But I do know that like Hal was the greatest, but then Hal was also the worst. Like he was the one that wiped out the Green Lantern Corps for a while. Like for a while, Kyle Rayner was the only Green Lantern around because Hal wiped
Like-
out the.
Yeah, because didn't Hal Jordan became Parallax?
He became Parallax. Yeah, exactly.
And then he kills Kyle.
Yeah. Well, it's comics. No one stays dead.
So-
You know that.
Like, my
having
thing is,
someone like Kyle is actually okay to me when you take that storyline and you say, okay, well, our greatest hero became our greatest villain, and now we need a new hero to rise up, is what Kyle Rayner did.
Mhm.
And I actually liked what DC seemed to have the sense to do with Kyle Rayner once they brought Hal Jordan back. And then they did the whole thing where he could like basically will a ring into existence, and they just showed that like his willpower is second to none. Like he's on a different level when it comes to Green Lanterns. That's great. Okay, you were the one true Green Lantern, but we still got this Kyle kid hanging out over here. What do we do with him?
Right.
And they funneled him off, and he became Ion, and I was like,
Right. Ion. That's his name. Yeah. Ion.
and I
Yeah,
was like,
do you know
that's great. Like I don't want necessarily Kyle to not exist. And he came in at a time that made sense because you didn't have Hal Jordan anymore. Same thing with Wally West. Like
he's the Tim Drake.
Wally West filled in Barry Allen's shoes because Barry Allen was dead. Like so, Wally West was legit. It wasn't his fault that Barry came back. I was, and you guys are probably going to disagree because you're both Wally fans, but I was like, when they did a story when they had Wally essentially get Manhattan's powers and sit on the chair of what's that chair?
Morbius,
God,
sure.
the
Morbius chair.
Chronothrone or Morbius chair. Yeah.
Yeah, like, and I was like, oh, dude, they're gonna turn Wally into this cosmic speedster. I was like, now look, I'm not as attached as you guys are, so it was easier for me to do this. I recognize, but I was like, that's great. I thought of Ion in the same way. I was like, Wally can now transcend. He can actually be something greater. But not
Well-
have to have two flashes per se, but they decided not to go that
Well,
route.
the,
So
the
keep
problem was that if they would have done it where he went ahead and just saved his children, and then I wouldn't mind if he stayed like that. But the fact that he had his children, just got them back after all these years, that would have been horrible.
for sure. But the
I
problem
did
is
like
you
that
have to think about the comics ahead of fictional characters.
Like,
So
to me personally, when it comes to Kyle Rayner, the most thing significant, I know for anything, because I don't really read a lot of Green Lantern, but
Huh?
his girlfriend got fridged. That's all I know. And he dated
That's-
Donna.
my
Yeah,
point on this though is
Did
really
not
just to talk
actually
about
engage-
if you
Yeah.
have Kyle Rayner as Ion, and if theoretically you put John Stewart, you just left him as Ultraviolet Lantern.
Yep.
Neither of these characters are now battling for the Green Lantern legacy. All three of them have their own identities, and they can just excel or fail like at that. What I hate is when it's like, I'm Green Lantern. No, I'm Green Lantern. No, I'm also Green Lantern. It's like,
But you're also forgetting though. You're hosting on Kyle and John, but you're forgetting about Guy.
Guy was a Red Lantern for a minute.
yeah, but
I thought
Guy
he
was
worked-
always
I thought he
a
worked really well as a Red Lantern.
Guy
But Guy
was-
was also Green Lantern during the Baja eras.
but
True.
exactly. No one ever took Guy as the serious replacement of Hal Jordan. So there's no threat there. Guy was always sort of like the comic
just- he
relief
was-
Green
he-
Lantern.
A nice guy until he got bumped in the head again.
Like Guy's fine. Guy serves a purpose of just being Guy. And the Red Lantern thing actually makes sense too. So you could go that route if you wanted to.
New 52, he was Red Lantern.
He was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Him and Supergirl, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, I did too. Actually, like they need to do something. I was like, oh, they're doing something different with Supergirl so that she's not just a female Superman.
They just made her evil.
Well, they didn't make her evil. She just had rage.
Wasn't necessarily. Yeah, it wasn't
He wanted-
necessarily evil.
Are you kidding? She wanted to sacrifice Earth to bring back her new Krypton, whatever.
Well, you know, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the.
So Kal-El had to spank her.
It's not her being evil. It's just her being influenced by the Red Lantern power.
Well, she had a Red Lantern power at the time.
Yeah, she did. She was on the Red Lantern Corps.
For a while, yes, but not when they got that other Kryptonian came back. She didn't have the Red Lantern powers.
You didn't? Are you sure?
Pretty
Okay.
sure. Unless somebody can prove me wrong.
So,
I'm too tired right now.
anyways, hopefully that's the way it'll do. I think Kyle is cool as long as he's not
Yeah.
Green Lantern. Like, if you want to keep Kyle as like the supreme multicolored lantern thing, I don't mind that. He still can't manifest a lantern out of sheer will. Like,
Right.
it still doesn't change the fact that when it comes to the Green Lantern, Hal Jordan is the definitive one.
The greatest
Kyle
one ever.
has a different thing. Like, he can power different rings because he's all over the place, but his willpower is not to the level of Hal Jordan's.
Kyle should have just been a Teen Titans member with Wally.
Nah.
Yeah, but they both
Green
grew
Lantern.
up.
Because well, no, I'm just saying back in the day because you had Alan Scott was the Green Lantern of the Justice Society, and you
Yeah.
have So why couldn't
Kyle
be on a
and
team?
Wally were teammates on JLA.
Yeah,
I'm
and
saying
Alan
they
Scott's
could
a
have been.
different. Alan Scott's a different kind of Green Lantern.
Yeah, Alan.
I'm just saying it's not. It wouldn't be a stretch to have him on a team other than Green Lantern. I said, like, if you're just gonna have all the Green Lanterns on one team, they're all wearing the same color. After a while, it's pointless.
Well, it
Because
is.
now
when
you're
you have
saying
a-
that. Because now you're saying that John can replace Hal at any time. Because Kyle is just there just for to be the pretty boy. It's like Guy is the doofus. It's like why? It just feels like I'm watching like a Halo show. Rooster Teeth. Literally. Red versus blue.
Well, the point though is you can't have two ultimate Green Lanterns.
No.
So, and that was the problem. As long as you keep Kyle, as long as you keep Kyle as Ion, then it's something separate. And I think even John Stewart, even though he's not an ultimate Green Lantern, it's clear that you want to show that he's something special, worthy to be on the Justice League. So he can't. It's not fair to him to just be like, "Oh, you're a secondhand Hal Jordan." So the Ultraviolet Lantern was a really cool thing that Snyder did.
I liked it better when John didn't want to be a Lantern. Whenever Hal would get knocked out, the ring would go over to John and like, "What the fuck? I don't want you anymore." And it's like he'd have to take over because Hal's knocked unconscious. He was a backup Green Lantern. Like they shared the ring.
That makes him
Like
even
that.
that makes him even more of a token. That's terrible. Terrible.
I'm just saying I liked it better when he didn't want to be a Lantern. Like he said, when he only had Hal, pretty much.
Well, look, I would be happy with just Hal. I don't like legacy characters, but the fact is, John Stewart's been around for a long time, and if you're gonna have John Stewart, I seriously don't want him to be a token. So let's put him in a role that he can excel and have his own identity, and he doesn't have to like leech off the identity of someone else. Captain
John
America.
Stewart, public bus driver.
Like, I just cannot stand that idea of propping up characters by having them cling on the coattails of someone else. But anyways, so it's a fun book. It kind of ended abruptly. I can see why some people weren't super happy with it. Everyone seems to hate the idea of the Night Terrors. I don't know why. I don't really know anything about Night Terrors.
The reason we don't like it with Night Terrors is because he just launched this book, and now it's gonna be interrupted for some event instead of having he didn't get a chance to breathe.
Is it being interrupted? Because
it is.
It's going to be it progresses into this.
No, take a look at the bottom here. To be continued in Night Terrors Green Lantern #1. Not to be continued in Green Lantern issue #3. It's you got to buy a whole new comic to see where this story goes.
Yep.
So that is fair. I thumb my nose up to DC for that sort of shit. That's
don't you remember Future State? We weren't reading Flash where you Josh Williamson was interrupted for Future State.
Well, Jeremy Adams' Flash was interrupted with Dark Crisis.
I know.
That ended up being some of the best issues that he wrote, though.
Is he even writing the? Is he writing the Night Terrors #1?
I do not know.
Or is it somebody else?
I would assume, but you know what they say about assuming.
So, yeah, I can understand that. That's really lame. However, that's not a fault of this story in between these pages.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah. It's gonna make issue number 3 kind of weird, though. It's not gonna make it if you don't read this Green Lantern #1. I guess it's gonna make the story feel disjointed. So we'll have to see how that goes. I hate when they do that. Oh well, that's the those are the books for tonight. Anyone have any other books you want to talk about?
Talk about what's coming up.
Did we talk about Battle Chasers?
No, we haven't.
Ash, did you read Battle Chasers?
I didn't read Battle Chasers.
He taught. Well, that's funny because you talked up the whole the guy. You know.
He was
Joe
a
the-
huge superstar back in the day. Like,
Yeah, and then you're like, I don't want his book.
Well, hang on. Now here's the. Well, now granted, I
I didn't buy
this.
Battle Chasers when it came out originally, so like I was like, why would I start now? That to me was like, I remember when
fair.
Battle Chasers was a thing, but I was never the huge Joe Maduria fan. Like he was
I like
the big X-Men artist because when
Mhm.
Jim Lee left and all the big names went to Image, Maduria kind of shot up in stardom because he was now like the biggest thing at Marvel. And he kind of brought a new look. He had that like kind of manga inspired art. It was just a new thing and it was kind of hot. It wasn't my thing completely. I was like, it's not terrible, but it's kind of weird. Like, and he was just the artist for X-Men. So I was like, okay,
was-
fine. But I wasn't like, I'm going to follow you wherever you go. And so when he ended up doing Battle Chasers, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like he's made a name for himself. Like, cause he went to a video game and the whole Battle Chasers was tied into a video game. Like he like left comics essentially.
Right.
And so I was
Well,
like, cool, like more power to him, but I just wasn't interested.
It's because he found out that there was more to life, you know, than just being paid shit for comic books. You know, he got paid way more by doing video games.
I'm
video games are
quite
exploding.
confident. I'm quite confident he got paid well on X-Men, but you're right. It is
Yeah,
video
yeah.
game industry is even bigger. So
and I like the fact at first when I saw this, I was like, I didn't understand it, but then when I saw the interior art, I was like, this is actually kind of decent, you know, and it's very manga-esque.
now the interior art's not Joe Madureira, so that's another
No.
thing. Is like
No, I know, but
You
I
would
was talking.
think that he could have. You would think.
Yeah, but I mean, I do like this other guy's style too.
The other guy's style is good. I appreciate it. It also has that manga quality to it.
no. My only point
But
is, if I didn't buy Battle Chasers when Madureira was doing the art, it wouldn't make any sense for me to start now when he's not doing the art.
That's fair.
That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to dog the book. The book could be great. I've never read it. I know some people who love it. I think Doc over in the Comic Aficionados, I think he was a big fan of Battle Chasers. Like
Okay.
it just was like I was never huge on the Maduria bandwagon. I just recognized that he was a big star and he did happen to draw the book that I was into. But when he left, I was like, okay, well,
Alright.
see ya. Like
the art really, I just said this, the art really did change, you know. It's and I don't not see the art's better than Madureira's art. It's still good art though. It's still got the indie feel, which I love. It's still got that indie kind of like, you know, manga-esque, you know,
yeah.
which is really good. But if you look at if you go look at issue 9, you know, before this, you look at Madureira's art, it's like that's even more video game, you know, manga.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing I really respected about him, you know, with his Jason Medina. I think his name was, I can't forget. I was gonna butcher his last name, but anyway, I like the fact that he basically took what we liked. We took Japanese manga, you know, and wrote it in the style of, you know, like he took it's almost like an Americanized version of manga, but like not to the point where it's horrible.
Yeah.
Like he understood. So
He was like
and
he reminds me of like what Tim Lim is trying to be today.
Sure, exactly. And honestly, that's one of the reasons that really drew me into it because I was looking, I'm like, you got this kid, a young girl, who basically tried to find her father, and inherits his gloves. He's super like these ridiculously huge like power gloves that like protect her. They're like but they're like super deadly power, and like and you got Garrison, who basically was a guy who worked with her father. You got this guy Red Monica, who's a thief. She's like and you got the giant war golem, and you got the wizard here that get played by Nolan. And then, like I said, you got all these different people here too. And then, like I said, it is just insane. Like this, how wonderful it's done. The attention to it. I admit I do like Madeira's art over this guy's, over Ludo Lullabies. But I mean, it's still a good series, and I really do hope that they continue it. I love the fact this girl, she watched her family get her father, first her father doesn't come back. Her father's everybody thinks he's dead, so she's been living with his nanny. And then they come to their house. These people these pretending to be these hunters. Oh, we're trying to fake your father. Do you have any stuff? And then she finds out they're not really human. They're werewolves. And they they attack her, and then she flees, and then she runs. It's in this woods, being chased by these things. Only to run into this war golem who's just out there planting flowers, because they only grow in this part of the land where there's always lightning. He gets struck by lightning. It's just awesome. It's just if you like Full Metal Alchemist, kind of how the little kids in the giant battlesuit armor. I just really got me into it. But
Cool.
why is Maka Bats up there? The handsome face in there.
He does look a little bit like Maga Bass.
So, let's see. Undead Quinn made a comment. Grant Morrison run was a different feel. Amen to that. That was a weird. I actually
fact.
stopped buying Green Lantern in his run. It was really weird.
Oh,
Ethereal Dragon says, "Didn't Guy have alien powers for a time?" I don't know. What do you guys?
well,
He went by Warrior for a minute.
you also remember during the Warrior series, he got turned into a chick.
That's right. He was that warrior thing for a while.
And wow, they draw him looking hot.
Ethereal also asks, "How many Earth Green Lanterns are there in the Green Lantern Corps now?" That's a really good question. It's hard to say because the Green Lantern Corps got decimated.
There's 6, I believe, not counting Joe Mullane or whatever her name is.
I don't know what the current continuity is, because as far as I know, there's only a couple Green Lanterns because the main power battery got destroyed.
Power battery got destroyed, but I think they had a workaround. I don't know exactly. I wasn't reading the Green Lantern series. That
maybe they built a new one.
Name? Was it John Ridley? I think was writing it.
Yeah, he's the one that's writing the backup story in this book, and he has a thing where John Stewart says that he was the watchman, and his job was to keep watchtower. Is that what he calls himself? And his job was to keep the rings charged or something.
Yeah,
I think he was the backup. It was kind of hard to put together, but
yeah. Well, so that's the reason why Kilowog and Hal are stuck on Earth and they don't have rings.
John as well too.
They quarantined off the Earth, Sector 2814.
But
so Kyle and some of the other human lanterns, they just got reassigned to different sectors.
If you don't factor in all that stuff, which is really confusing, and DC just doesn't clarify it.
Yeah.
You've got Hal, Guy, John, Kyle, Jessica Cruz.
Yep. Who's actually cool?
What's
Simon Baz?
Simon Baz.
Yep.
Then you've got JoJo Mullane. You've got
Teen. I think she's not a human though. I think she's
she's human.
Oh, is she human? Okay.
Oh yeah. And then you've got Teen Lantern.
Oh yeah, I forgot Teen Lantern.
And then you've got that Chinese kid who inherited the ring from his grandma. So stupid.
Yeah.
So that's 10. Then you got this new Shepherd guy. That's 11.
He's Commander Shepard.
You're exactly right, Ethereal. So whoever's implying there's too many, I don't know. That's Gigamox says, anyone reading Invincible Iron Man? I have been getting it and really enjoying it. And while not following along with the X-Men crossover stuff.
I've been enjoying it too.
the X-Men crossover.
I do not buy any Marvel books, so I cannot comment on that.
It's
buying
Gary
one.
Duggins, but becoming Hacksaw Jim Duggan and not getting out of the park. I've been
Wow,
loving it.
that's something I've never heard next to Gary Duggan's name. Knocking out of the
Yeah.
I
park.
know, right?
I'm
He-
buying
he-
one Marvel book, and it is Moon Knight. No, I take that back. I'm getting Guardians of the Galaxy too. So and Avengers.
Marani's also reading it. She's our resident Iron Man #1 fan. And she's
Sure.
happy with it, so that seems
There
pretty
you go.
good. You
That's
can
a-
please
what-
old time Iron Man fans. Ever since Teen Lantern hacked the power battery to get her own ring, the Guardians of Woa decided to finally beef up the firewall and limit the access. I gotta hand it. I forget who wrote it, but there was a story a little while back where they didn't retcon it. Well, I mean, it's kind of a retcon. They went into the story more, and it turns out that she didn't actually hack a power battery. And I was
she
like,
allowed
thank. I
or
forget
something like that?
exactly what it was, but it turns out that yeah, she didn't. I think like
She's
someone
she's a manhunter.
yeah, someone did it for her or something. Like it was. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, cool. This makes way more sense. The idea that you can hack a ring is so stupid, but especially an 8-year-old girl. But be that as it may, so that's no longer canon. But dude, she's not even a teenager. Like, just get her out of here. She's stupid.
8-year-old kid. I'm gonna fight, and then she gets one punch. Her next snap, she's dead.
Yeah. And then Jojo Mullane doesn't even want to be a Green Lantern. They gave that I forget J.K. Nimison. She's like a popular sci-fi artist or sci-fi writer in actual prose fiction.
J.K.
okay.
Rowling.
No, N.K. I don't remember. Something Nimison is her name, but she's a real liberal sci-fi writer. You can guess her skin color. And Marvel Studios, or sorry, DC gave her a Green Lantern book. Like, oh, you want to write Green Lantern? It's like, you write sci-fi books. Like, obviously, you know. So they gave her, and so she created this character, Jojo Mullane, which I picked up in the beginning, thinking, oh, look, a popular sci-fi writer in actual like prose fiction is writing. Let's see what this is. And it took only a couple issues to realize what garbage it was, and it was real. She wrote this self-important, sort of narcissistic character who didn't even want to be a Green Lantern. She just happened to have the ring because I can't remember if she like stole it or something happened. I can't, but she lives on like the edge of the universe or the galaxy or whatever, like so that the other Green Lanterns won't like notice her existence. She's on the space station. And I was just like, the whole time I was reading the book, I was like, why do I want to read this? Like, this character is just not deplorable, but she's just,
She's not. Yeah, she'll
I'm
never
just
be
like-
Korra.
she's just whatever. Like, okay, cool. Let her rot on the space station. And then DC decided, let's make her the actual Green Lantern of like Earth and put her on the Justice League. And all. I was like, are you, what?
She'll never be as great as Korra.
So stupid.
Yeah.
Popular doesn't mean good. You're exactly right, Ethereal Dragon. And I feel afterwards,
Thank you.
After
Napoleon
seeing-
Dynamite. Not good.
Hey,
after-
hey,
after
We're not gonna
seeing
slander.
what I got in the product, and I was looking more into it, I was like, oh, she's one of those kind of writers like Ta-Nehisi Coates, where people applaud her and give her all these awards and everything because of who she is, not what she does.
Well, not even because of who she is, more like what she looks like.
Exactly.
or
That's
her
what I'm
accolade.
saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
Man.
meaning. Like, not
Yeah.
not because she actually wrote things good, but because we want to celebrate black voices or diverse voices. Like, whenever you see that, you've seen it all the time. Celebrate diverse voice. Like, no, what that means is let's virtue signal our leftist politics by giving awards to people who never had to earn them. And
Yeah.
You can do it.
honestly, I went into that book paying money for it without that attitude. I was looking forward to a really cool book. It had the same artist, what's his name, who did the Naomi. What's his name? Really good artist.
Bendis. I'm just kidding.
No, the
Bendis.
artist. He's doing the
Ivan
Superman
Reyes?
book right now.
Ivan
Jamal
Reyes. Oh,
Who?
Jamal Campbell?
Jamal
Jamal
Campbell.
Campbell?
Yeah, so Jamal Campbell was doing the art, and I was like, oh man. So I went in with an open mind. I did not come in with a bias. and it was like, ooh, fail. This is bad. Um, so speaking of bad, I was kind of hoping Eric Breen would be here tonight because
It's
on the
too late
Geeky
for him.
on the Geeky Puppet Show, this was his pick, and he recommended it. And
Oh, that's
so,
right. He did. He did. That's why I recognize this.
so I decided to try it out because my boy Eric Breen, he's never wrong.
I'm excited for this Thursday, though.
So, boy, Eric, I don't know what's come over you, but the art in this book was terrible with lots of photo tracing. I mean,
What's
just
the
look
story
at
like, though?
look at the panel number 2 here. And like look at how inability to draw a face, and then but look at the detail of this like motorhome this truck. It's like what's
Look at the
Photoshop?
hand.
I just oh come on. I just
Is
awful.
that AI art for the hands?
It could be. Yeah, here's the Donald Trump hands down here.
Oh,
Now look,
God.
I can sometimes get over bad art if the story is really good. And the story is fine. But the art really pulls away from it. I had a really hard time getting into these characters because of the
fair,
art.
I've read books with worse art than this, and I enjoyed the dialogue, the storylines. So and you might be able to do that with this, this. But I do agree, this looks very, very indie. I mean, super indie.
Very indie. And like the art is, it's not that it's just ugly
It's
to
like
the
early
eyes.
Image.
It actually negatively impacts the storytelling because it
looks like
doesn't
early
come
image,
across as sequential art, as it comes across as like storyboards to try to pitch a movie. And it just, there's just no value.
Oh,
Again, like
no,
here,
no,
it's
it's-
almost like you took a photo of cars driving down the freeway and then just
No,
traced
it's
on it.
just- So this is Extraction 2.
No, Extraction is good.
Hey, they're making an Extraction 3.
So, and again, it's not that this is horrible. It's not. And I can see why Eric actually liked it. It did have a very Ed Brubaker criminal kind of feel.
But in a very the bullets. Wow.
But in a very poor man's type of way. Like it was like if I was writing a criminal story. Like
it is great though. I do like it. The guy gets hit when the guy gets shot in the face, his head pops back and you see it come out the exit wound. Like I do like that. Like people get injured.
Yeah, no. There's good things about the book for sure. When I was reading it, I was like, man, if this were a movie, like this whole scene where they take down this armored car, I was like, oh, this is like right out of the movie Heat. It feels like if you ever watch that movie, it's one of my favorite movies. Got a great gunfight scene in there. But the art is so stale, and like I said, because it's like photo traced, you never get any sort of dynamics because when you trace photos, you're limited to what the photo you have. You can't. An artist can make the image support what the story needs to show. When you do tracing, you're shoehorning in images.
But I like that guy smiling too. The other guy's smiling. He's like,
he's
like, I don't care.
And it's the main character, and he's always got that shit-eating grin look face, and that ruins it for me too. Now there is things going on here. Like there's a nice twist to the story. When they rob the van, it turns out like there's this woman and a kid inside, no money. And the job goes wrong. It follows these tropes like, oh, and then they get back to their hideout and the guy who gave him the job admit like, yeah, there never was any money. The only way we could rescue my wife and kid is, it was you guys. And so he like lied to them, and they're gonna like look like they're gonna shoot him, and then canister smoke, grenade comes in, and there's always things like happening at every moment where you're like, oh, something's about to happen, and oh no, this other thing happens, and it really keeps you on your
Grab
toes.
the woman and the boy, kill the rest. Yeah.
But the problem is that constantly reminded me of the failures of the book. Like these moments were never allowed to shine because I was like, oh, this could have been so good if only. And you don't ever want to do that when you're reading a good comic. Be like, oh, this could have been so good. You want to be able to read and go, oh, this is so good.
Right.
Now this page actually looks somewhat decent. I'm like, wow. It's just it's really all over the place. It's got an interesting story, interesting premise. If someone handed me the trade to read it, I would continue reading. But Eric, man, like
So it's just the
this
story is this guy lied to him, said there's gonna be money in the back of this armored car, but it turned out to be a guy's wife and son. And then they come back to get the wife and the son, the bad guys, and then his partner gets shot. So then he's basically stuck now protecting this woman and her son. He's caught in the middle of a shitstorm now. That's what I got from this movie. You skip me through that. But
there's
obviously the art could be a little better.
a little
Blood Tree is the same suffers the same fate though. Blood Tree has horrible art.
Blood
But
Tree
that
has
story-
ugly art, but it doesn't have bad storytelling in the art.
But
This
is
art
this
is not
AWA?
as this art is not as ugly as Blood Tree, partly because it's a lot of photo tracing.
But I
But
gotta
the
ask you, is this
storytelling is bad. It's like if you went through a magazine and just like cut out the pictures and just like glued them into the panels and then wrote word balloons and tried to just make shit match up. There is no sequential storytelling in the art here. When you're used to that, it really just disrupts the flow, and you have to get the story out of the word balloons. But that defeats the whole purpose of having a visual medium. The idea of a visual medium is to tell the story through the pictures. The word balloons only let you hear what the characters are saying. They shouldn't be informing you what's happening. Now, in some cases, you might need narration boxes to do that, and sometimes you need 3 hours later, blah, 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 or just some sort of expository writing to let you know what's happening in between the panels. That's fine. There is none of that. This is completely 100% dialogue. There is never a narrator voice. So, but you're having to figure out the story through the characters talking. The visuals don't tell you a whole lot. And it just sucks because you realize there could be something here. I don't know. And I went in expecting high marks because Eric rated it pretty high. And again, it's not trash. The story was at least interesting, but it was a lot of me going, oh man, if only. Oh, if only. you know, it's too bad. But that's me. And this is the first time I've been let down by an AWA book. So I just wanted to mention that. I didn't want to do a full video.
Yep.
There we go. No more.
And it's AWA. AWA's had some shit comics lately. Their last one was Absolution. Mike Tudio joined the art on there. It was horrible. Mike Tudio, Diodaro, his art is it's just so weird. It's like if you watch any show and it's always at nighttime whenever they show everything, so the screen everything's so dark. He fits right in. Like you have him like that's one of my complaints I have when it comes to like when it came either the Flash or even Superman and Lois. Some of the scenes they have are nighttime, so it's so freaking dark. So you take a screenshot, you actually have to go in night to like brighten up the freaking photo because it's such a dark scenes they have in the back there. Like, and a lot of movies are like that too. You have to a lot of them. You have to have your drapes closed during the day in order to watch them. But I don't know. This could get better. I'm not a fan of Ed Brisson, but
I think he is a little bit overrated.
But to me though, this is no different than the art I've seen in the past. Some of those older books I've been buying. What was the one I bought and then you started collecting it? You were gonna read it, Jake something. Who is Jake? Or was it who is Jake Willis or something like that? Or something like that? Remember you bought that series?
Oh, it's like vague.
But yeah. But the art in that was slightly better than this. Not that was the best. But I mean,
the storytelling. If it's the
Yeah,
book I'm thinking about, the storytelling was way better. Like, and I mean
Yeah.
that like from a visual storytelling, like the scenes, like you could follow along and just feel the action and the tense moments. It wasn't just like random like pictures of people's faces or a picture of a car and then people talking and like trying to piece together what the hell's even going on. Yeah, this was just a book that I cannot believe. Like the AWA, like are you really at that bottom of the barrel where this is the artist? And the story
Yeah.
is not bad. There's a lot of good here with a good editor that could flesh this story out. There's really a lot of potential here. And I'm not a big Ed Brisson fan, but there was good twists and good ideas in the story, some good tension, completely ruined by this artist. I was like, there's no reason you need to use an artist
Yeah.
that's this bad.
Who is Jake Ellis was the name of the book.
Yes, who is Jake Ellis? That was good. So, speaking of good, Zach, are you excited? Your boy Jonathan Hickman is coming out with a new book this week.
Yeah, buddy. Sure am.
Good.
Ultimate Invasion.
Are you excited to pay $8.99 for it?
That I am not excited for, but it is 52 pages, so it is
And-
fairly large.
Oh,
And
Hickman. No one else.
it is Jonathan Hickman is the only writer, and Brian Hitch is doing the art. And I am a fairly big Brian Hitch fan. Yeah, $9. That bit sucks, but at the same time,
Honestly though,
52 pages. That's
you're getting more pages. It's only John Hickman. You're not getting other people taking turns writing stories in it. It's not like 3 different writers.
That's true. So $8.99, man.
It's a large.
$8.99.
But this is also part of the thing that's come along with, cutting out, large chunks of my comic book budget for mediocre books. Is now I have a little extra wiggle room for the occasional super
Yeah.
price.
It's $6 then afterwards. The next issue.
It says you only have to continue paying $6.
Better than paying $9 again.
Oh my goodness, this book better be awesome.
I know Breen and there's some people say different things about him.
So
I
how
have
is
not been let down by anything I've read from him.
I wonder how this is gonna work. Because remember, for those who read Cates' Venom, the Maker was in there. The Maker was looking for a way to get back to his home world. He suspected he was still there. So this is the aftermath of that, I guess.
Maybe.
That's what I'm
Now
guessing.
I thought the Ultimate Universe was destroyed, so I'm curious to see how this is all put back together.
Well, that's what Cates said. That's what.
It was destroyed by Hickman back in 2015 Secret Wars.
But don't you remember though, the Maker who's been in our main universe along with Miles, the Maker he theorized in the Cates book, he theorized that his world was still there.
Yeah.
And he was trying to find a way there, because he said, well, you got this girl, Spider Girl, her Earth is here, Earth 65, her Earth is still there, so that means mine must be really there, and he basically wanted to travel back there. That's why he basically took some one of the symbiotes, was using it. Yeah.
And so also, just in case anyone is not remembering, Maker is the ultimate version of Reed Richards. He snapped, he went evil, so he's a super brainy guy. So it's not if anyone is gonna find out if there are other universes or whatever out there, it would be
So the
him.
cover has Miles Morales on there and his original costume,
Mm-hmm.
not the shitty one he has now. Same with
Speaking of
Iron Man. Iron
costumes,
Man.
is it just me, or is the Across the Spider-Verse version of Miles Morales costume like the best?
It is.
I like it.
I was watching that movie and I was like, this costume is gorgeous. What the hell is Marvel doing? Like, this is what you should be on the page of a Marvel comic book.
Yeah, they need Sony to be coming up with their comic books.
I don't know, that costume in that movie, I was like, they nailed it. This is iconic.
Well, also, yeah.
Uh,
I also like the fact they understand that it's like, hey, just like Superman, he wears his costume under his civilian clothes.
Yeah.
For some reason in the MCU, Peter Parker doesn't do that, which really annoyed the heck out of me. It's like, come on, dude, really? You just can't wear your suit underneath your shirt and your pants? But I don't know.
So
This is gonna be a
I'm
wrap-up
interested in
though.
this because I've seen what Jonathan Hickman can do on a good day. I have hopes. I hope he knocks it out of the park, but I am not paying $8.99 for a Marvel comic. Sorry, Marvel.
That's gonna be a wraparound cover, probably.
I don't think so.
Not even for this variant.
That's an awful variant.
Here's the variant Zach's gonna get.
But she's dead though. Blob ate her.
That is not a bad Peach Momoko variant. I gotta say that's not bad.
It's a
But
bad
Wasp is
variant.
dead.
It's not a bad illustration, but it's a terrible variant cover. Like,
Okay,
this has
It'd be
nothing to
better-
do.
It'd be better if she's drawing her bit in half.
Like, I hate when variant covers are just like random art that has nothing to do with anything. It's like, hey, look, we just found this in our like art stock room for leftover art that we never used. Like, just throw that in there. You know? At least make the art still relevant to the book in some way. Like, here you go, right? You got Ultimate Wolverine, Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate whoever that is.
I think that's Jean Grey, which both of them are also dead. And so I think the variant covers not all of them are related to the story. Some of them are just flashbacks and homages to the original. Yeah, see, like those two, they're dead. I think most of the Ultimate.
Are they dead if the universe isn't actually dead? Who knows? I don't know.
Hey, if the universe isn't actually dead, then Ultimate Peter Parker comes back. Then what? Then what's Miles gonna do?
Then what? Yeah.
So
Well, actually, in Ultimate Peter Parker, he wasn't dead though. He gave Miles his blessing, and he left with Mary Jane.
What?
Yeah, we've been over this before.
No.
In Bendis' run, Peter he apparently looked like he died, but then he came back.
I don't even know what to say to that. Other than screw Bendis. He ruins everything, even his own stories.
Actually, no, it's actually a really good story. Miles Morales over in Ultimate Spider-Man was awesome. Miles in Main Universe was shit.
More so because there wasn't a Peter Parker. That's the thing, that Miles Morales was the Spider-Man in his world because Peter Parker was dead, and he idolized Peter Parker, and he picked up.
For a while, Peter was dead until it was revealed that him and Mary Jane had been keeping this secret for a while. That Peter didn't really die.
Exactly.
And he basically.
That's why I'm saying Bendis ruins even his own stories.
No, I don't think it's ruining. No.
Yes. Making Peter Parker, who great power comes great responsibility, fake his own death so that he can not be responsible.
I'm sorry, he pulled Christopher Nolan.
It's not a Christopher
Nolan.
Nolan.
To have a happy ending. Instead of being, being Spider-Man, he let someone else take over. Like Christopher Nolan did with Batman. He let the kid take over being Batman. so he could be with Selena Kyle.
There's no such thing as taking over. The Marvel Universe is full of heroes. It's not like you need a Spider-Man. You could just say, okay, Daredevil's got it covered. Or
I'm just
any
saying.
one
I'm
of the
just saying
millions.
that's what Nolan did too. He
Nolan
quit
did
being
not do
Batman.
that.
He gave the kid the keys to the cave. The kid stumbles across the cave.
It only works because Nolan made 3 movies and the story's done. When you're
Well,
when you're telling infinite comics and there's no ending, you can't do that.
you can't do that. It's called the Ultimate Universe. It wasn't the main universe.
I get it. And it worked because Spider-Man was dead. And then you brought him
It
back.
worked because it wasn't the main universe.
You tell yourself that. I don't understand. You make no sense to me sometimes. You'll say like One More Day is so terrible because it messed up Spider-Man.
One More
and then
Day
you're
because-
totally
no, because it
acceptable
was
when
marriage.
he's screwed
You
up
have
in any
that,
other
fine.
case.
Ultimate Universe did not fuck around with the main universe. I don't care what the fuck they do. If Peter wants to be gay in that universe, I wouldn't give a shit. It's the Ultimate Universe. If it's the main universe where everything else matters supposed to matter, then yeah, then it's a big deal. Like I said, everything else is Elseworlds. Miles was Elseworlds.
So
It doesn't affect-
what then explain your complaints about the film Spider-Man.
Which one?
Any of them.
What do you mean? I love Amazing Spider-Man. I love the Tobey Maguire ones.
Okay. What about the MCU one?
The MCU one, my only complaint with that one was how they did with MJ. You know,
But it's
But they-
not
but
it's
they-
not
but they
main
fixed- but they
universe. Doesn't
fixed it up.
matter. Like
they fixed it out. Like I said,
anyways,
it didn't-
Zach,
it
you
look-
understand what I'm talking about.
I'm not deeply offended like you are.
I'm not
I
deeply
understand
offended. I just think it
I'm
makes the character not interesting. It ruins.
I'm hearing bits and pieces of both. I don't entirely disagree with both of you, but
All I'm saying
I'm
is
also-
Miles was made more interesting by the fact that Peter Parker died. And that Miles, who idolized him and like it was his personal hero, rose to be like Peter Parker. Like Peter Parker was his Uncle
Yeah.
Ben.
yeah,
Like if you just bring Uncle Ben back, it messes up the Peter Parker storyline. I don't want Uncle Ben to come back.
The problem is though that he didn't idolize Spider-Man though. He never did in Ultimate Universe. He didn't idolize Spider-Man.
Yeah,
he
he
didn't want to
did.
be No, he didn't.
That's why he
Did you read the
calls himself
comics?
Spider-Man.
Oh my gosh, the reason he calls himself Spider-Man because Nick Fury came in. Nick Fury said, here, because originally he grabbed the costume only because his friend Genki pressured into him, and then he got in trouble by Ultimate Spider-Woman, who was still alive, and then Nick Fury said, he's like, hey kid, we're gonna make you the new Spider-Man. He wasn't going around calling himself Spider-Man. That was Nick Fury. That was Nick Fury Jr. So he never worshipped Spider-Man. In the movie, yeah, sure.
well, I do agree with Ash. Miles was more interesting when he was the only one.
Sure.
I
If you
would-
want to say that though, but I mean, he still was the only one. Peter came back, teamed up with him a little bit, and then Peter decided to basically
Yet,
take the time off because everybody knew that Peter Parker was Spider-Man. There was no way to change it, so he had no secret identity.
Yep. Well, honestly, I don't have a dog in the fight, so
I know. I'm just saying. I
it's
don't.
not, it's not
I have
about
no problem with that.
it's not about having a dog in
Okay.
the fight. I think characters are built in certain ways and the foundations make things better or worse on how you structure them. And when you change those foundations, you can adversely affect the character. It's like killing Alfred, I think, has adversely affected Batman. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
it's stupid that Alfred's dead. Like,
definitely.
now you could say, well, I don't like Batman, so I don't have a dog in the fight, and that's fair. But my point is, I think that and I think having Peter Parker be alive and he just faked his death and just didn't want to be Spider-Man anymore, and he wanted to hand it off to some kid. I think that makes the story lesser in my eyes. But,
Mhm.
and I'm trying to give Miles benefit of the doubt. I'm trying to like give him credit. I'm trying to say, here's things that are. But you say, oh yeah, you didn't even care about Spider-Man. Oh, and he didn't actually even die. You're just running around because Nick Fury made you. It's like, then what the fuck is this character? Does he even want to be a hero? Like,
At first, he didn't want to because he was only 14 years old. He got bit by a spider, and then all of a sudden his world got messed up. His friend Genki, he's like, "Oh, it's so cool, bro! You got spider powers. You could be the next Spider-Man." He's like, "No, I don't want to be Spider-Man. I don't want it." And then I guess I think his father is eventually his father dies or something like that, and that becomes his Uncle Ben. Peter was never his Uncle Ben.
I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert on Miles, but I distinctly
Yeah.
remember when Miles came to the Marvel Universe 616 and then had a reuniting of sorts with the 616 Peter Parker.
Yeah.
It was an emotional moment for a reason.
They had they've only met once prior to the whole Hickman thing. Or
Yeah.
where
Like some big crossover where Peter Parker from the 616.
it was one issue. He got thrown into that, because of Mysterio.
Yeah. Something happened where he crossed over and ended up in the
Yeah, but
for an issue.
yeah, Miles just wanted to be a normal kid. He just he wanted to go to school and stuff. On instinct though, he saw someone in a burning building. He ran in there and he saved the lady out of the building. And then he wasn't even wearing a mask at the time either. He just went on there and they're like, "What the hell, kid?" And he's like, just he walked away. And Genki's like, "Dude, you saved the lady." He's like, "Yeah, but I don't want to be a hero though." And so he kind of was cornered into it. They changed it for the Sony Movieverse. They also changed it for I'm not sure if the 2018 though, when he went over to the main universe. But originally, he never really wanted to be a hero. He was just kind of thrown into it. So, like I said,
Ronnie
Ultimate Universe was
Ronnie says the funny thing about the MCU Spider-Man movies is that I haven't heard anyone complain about the Liz Allen being race swapped. MJ got all the fury for doing it too.
Yeah.
I think people didn't make a big deal out of it because race swapping is so prevalent these days.
Well,
like it's
I do remember though that the people were complaining about that too.
I don't remember it so much with Liz. I think it's because
It was the MJ that took most of it too, though. But it was I remember it being brought up.
I remember I like I said, I don't remember it being anything about Liz Allen. It was all on MJ, which I think was just because Mary Jane is the front and center.
You're right, because Mary Jane's a major character.
Yeah,
no one gives
Liz
a shit about Liz Allen. like
there's no normie who knows who Liz. I don't even know what Liz Allen's like.
Yeah, there was no Norman Osborn.
Yeah.
So race swapping happens all over the place. So we're so used to it now that we just roll our eyes.
So the complaint I heard more wasn't the race up of Liz Allen, is the fact that they made her the Vulture's daughter. People were pissed about that.
I didn't hear any complaints about that either.
You live in a bubble.
Hey babe, I don't know.
I just didn't care about that because it's the MCU and sometimes connections are different. I mean, like in the MCU, Wanda and Quicksilver are not mutants, like because they can't be. Like it's just, to me, those things aren't really worth complaining about. Like sometimes decisions are made because it has to fit within the flow of what you're doing in that universe. Race swapping, I have a bigger problem with because it's never, or I should say, it's almost never done for the intent of the story. Like, we need to do this. It's almost always, like 99.9% of the time, it's done for racist reasons.
Oh my gosh! Imagine if they were to race swap, having Aunt May be black and then she's killed by a white guy. No Way Home.
So, and MJ being dark skinned, obviously that's a major thing because MJ has a very iconic look. She's a redhead bombshell.
Yeah, this is Michelle Jones.
And this MJ, not only did they race swap her, but her personality was so different. Like she was like a character out of the Breakfast Club, right? Instead
Yeah,
of
yeah. My Ringwald.
MJ. Yeah, and it was just like way big culture shock when you're a Spider-Man fan. You're like, what the hell am I seeing here?
And then the whole thing about George Washington being racist and all that stuff,
Yeah, that was so stupid. Roll my eyes.
Well, and the other thing, they could have called her Mary Jane because the fact that Sony owns rights to that character name, so they had to call her Michelle Jones.
You mean Marvel owns the rights to the character name?
Well, no. Well, Sony owns the rights to that character, Mary Jane Watson, just like they own the rights to
they own the
Hunter.
rights to Spider-Man.
Yeah.
I mean, they could have done.
They could have. If they really want to make a deal, they could have. But that was
My take on this is that they called her MJ because instead of Mary Jane, because they were hedging their bets. What they wanted to do was be able to back out in case there was massive backlash and people were like, what the hell? They're like, no, it's okay. It's just a coincidence. This is not Mary Jane Watson. This is another character with same initials. And people would be like, okay. But if people were fine, if there was not enough backlash, they could just sort of like slip it in and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess, okay, cool, here, and you're used to it. And I got to tell you the truth, by the third movie, I didn't care anymore. Like, I was really resistant on the first movie, less resistant at the second movie, and by the third movie, and part of it was because I think the third movie like made her character a lot better. They like really softened the edges around her. And at that point, the damage is already done. Like once you race swap a character, you can't go into like the second movie and be like, oh no, we're gonna race swap them back. Like you can't. You gotta stick to it. So
unless the world's glitching and the worlds are colliding.
Yeah.
And you can do So.
Well, I guess the Spider-Verse nonsense. But I actually like Zendaya. I think she's growing as an actress. I think she's amazingly cast as Chani in Dune. I actually applaud, like, Dune is a case where some could say that they're doing race swapping, but that's only it's only if you take in reference to the original Dune movie, which was itself based on a book. And that movie just used white actors because the predominant actors are white. I mean, especially back then. But Dune makes sense. It's a desert planet. People that are native to the desert would all have dark skin. Like it's just. So when I was watching the film, I was actually applauding their choice of like putting lots of dark skinned actors in the roles because I was like, this is a case. It has nothing to do with race swapping. This is believable to the story that is told in the book. These are natives to a desert planet. Whereas like Paul, he comes from an ocean world that's like covered in clouds all the time. So like his people like all like light skin. Like I like when things make sense like that. I don't care about skin color otherwise. I just want it to make sense to the narrative.
Yeah, Dune 2 coming out later this year.
I haven't seen any trailers or anything about it, so I keep forgetting it's even coming out.
They had a trailer, I thought, that was fairly recent. It was about a month or so ago. I guess it was more of a teaser trailer because it didn't show a ton. But yeah, it showed off some new stuff, some interesting stuff.
All right. So besides Ultimate Invasion, are there any other big comic names being released this week that need to draw people's attention to?
Well, let's see. We've got the new World's Finest issue from Mark Waid and Dan Mora. That comes out tomorrow. Vigil #2. Get your Ram V fix. #1 I thought was really interesting. It's this new kind of intelligence organization. Looks like they're out of India. And some of them have some pretty unique superpowers, some kind of new superpowers that I thought was really cool to see. I really enjoyed the first issue, so I'm looking forward to #2. And See what else we got here. Superman #5, talking about Jamal Campbell a little while ago. He's doing some really good artwork in his Superman book that he's doing. Joshua Williamson writing. That's been a blast so far. I know RDV and I have been really enjoying that one. It's just good, lighthearted Superman stories. Kind of reluctantly teaming up with Lex Luthor. There's not a lot of agenda stuff going on in there. So if you've been missing some good old Superman, check that out. There's the new. It's not Sean Gordon Murphy, but it's his wife is doing the writing. I think Katana Collins as the second issue of the Generation Joker, where it's Jack Napier's hologram taking his kids on a little road trip. So that's still a lot of fun. Mirka Andolfa doing the artwork on that. Yeah, there's a few books coming out this week. But the biggest one, I think, the one that's getting the most attention is going to be The Ultimate Invasion.
Yep, I'll be interested in borrowing one of your guys' copies.
Yep. I don't know. Are you picking up Ultimate Invasion, RDV?
Yep.
Right on.
That's one of the books I have. Dude, my list for this week is so small.
Yeah, you were saying that. Yeah, you have a small one this week, and then mine's really big. But then I think next week, yours is huge.
Mine's Chad size.
Yeah, you have a Chad size pull list next week, and I just have 5. So
Yeah,
the fluctuation is real.
I just saw this
Yeah.
comic in the list here. This seems really cool, but I never saw this on the shelf. We Are Scarlet Twilight.
I've never heard of this.
That caught my eye too, but I mean, like, I've never heard of this actual company, Red 5.
Yeah,
I've heard of Red
I think
5,
I've
but
heard of-
they're real indie.
yeah.
I never see them on the shelf.
I've never seen this title,
Exactly. I see the titles, but I've never seen them on shelves.
A
Scout-
thrilling cyber pulp
Yeah.
adventure.
though. Cyberpulp. That sounds intriguing.
So next week is really big for me, but then I only have like 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7 books for July 5th.
Mm.
2 weeks from now. Like the week after this week.
There is the I'm not getting this. I just saw it. The big Wonder Woman #800 comes out tomorrow. Not a single writer on it that I would.
I'm going
throw
to
a
grab
stick
it.
at.
I will grab the Tom King book, see what that's all about.
Which you will grab the Tom King. Well, it's Tom King, and then it's also Becky Cloonan and Michael
When
Conrad.
is this the one that's gonna have the girl in here? The
I
daughter?
don't. No, that's when Tom King starts. When they go back to number
Okay.
1, I think. I think.
Alright.
No, I could be wrong. I think I'm wrong.
Tom
No,
King-
this will
yeah.
be the first appearance. Yeah, this one will be the first appearance of Lizzie Prince. Is the real name Trinity? though.
All right, I guess I'll be picking this up. What's the
Yeah.
price?
$6.
It'll be my second. It'll be my second Becky Clooney Wonder Woman book. I own.
There is some Todd Knock art and some Daniel Sampier, some Joel Jones, and some
Michael
Jen
All Red
Bartel.
swimsuit edition with the waveboards.
No, Michael Allred. God no, Michael Allred's art. Ugh.
You could be getting some Rogue Sun, which everyone is clamoring about,
Eh,
but no.
The
Nah,
new
or I could just get Power Rangers.
there's the new Titans. Titans #2
You could,
from
but
the
it
other
wouldn't. Would
Tom.
it be Ryan Perrott?
It is. Ryan Pratt does it. Power Rangers too.
Is that how you say his name? Parat?
I don't know.
Parrot. Parrot.
New Saga issue. It's nice to see
Yeah.
an indie book is the #2 up here.
Is that
Oh.
Remender?
No, Saga is Brian K. Vaughan.
Okay. What's the one that Rick Remender was doing?
What was Rick Remender doing?
He had a big ongoing one too that people liked.
It was well, give me a second here. See if I can
Because
find it.
he finished up the other one. He was
Deadly
doing the
Class, right?
yeah, he finished up that, and then he was doing another one that had Wong in it.
Oh yeah.
That was Righteous Search for Vengeance.
Yeah,
Right,
That was only 11 issues though.
Yeah, but then he started doing another one though after those series.
He's got a new one coming out in August called The Sacrificers, but that's probably not what you're talking about though.
Mm.
I do
Daniel
not know,
Stampere's got
unfortunately.
a special foil cover.
Mm.
Oh, I just want. I'll probably get this cover if they have it, the stock variant cover with Trinity on it.
Oh, hey, the Batgirl series is ending tomorrow. The final Batgirls from Becky Cloonan and Michael Conrad.
See, I want to get that Joseph one, but I've never seen Comics Experience publishing anywhere. They just popped out of nowhere.
I have to special order it.
Italian superstar artist, yeah. First gorilla in space. Born on Joseph Stalin's birthday, subjected to terrible genetic experience.
There's the Philip Kennedy Johnson, the new Incredible Hulk issue #1. Nick Klein doing the art. Doesn't look too bad.
Superboy.
Maranya, they've got the new Hellcat #4. Don't you want to see what happens to her now that Tony's marrying Emma and not Hellcat?
Actually, you forgot the. I don't think they're actually getting married. I think that
You think it's a misdirect?
no, I think Tony is like her bridesmaid because she's actually getting married to another girl.
Wait, Tony is her bridesmaid?
Yeah,
Tony is a
like her
bridesmaid.
or bridesman because
Did,
no,
did
because
they
she's
like
the
just
man
did they
relationship.
chop off his balls too?
I'm not seeing that being the
Well,
case.
no, they wouldn't. How could they? Hellcat's got him.
My God.
It's amazing, isn't it? Amazing.
It's
Yeah,
something.
Comics Experience Publishing has got a lot of books coming out this week. I'm like, this never even heard of them. Sereno, First Three.
Yeah, they're the ones that did that book that I can't remember the name of right now, where it was like the destruction of the universe.
Only find them when they're dead.
No, I was talking about it for a while back. I can't remember the name of it. And I don't have a copy of an issue
Also,
nearby.
you could just click on the name of the company. And it pops up too.
Oh, I guess I could
Should
find one of
I
their
mean that'd be
books.
if only it was smart system like that, but maybe it won't. See, 7 Years of Darkness.
This one, Saga of a Doomed
Oh,
Universe.
okay, that one. That's one
That
you're
was
buying.
CEX. Yeah, that was one of the first ones. And it was a well-published book. Like they're expensive, but I was really pleased with the quality of the book.
Ooh, Mother
So
Russia. They're special.
you like all that Russian stuff?
Yeah, I blame Sarah.
Yeah. I was gonna blame Putin, but I'll blame Sarah.
Well, I can't blame Putin.
Oh, here we go. This is a CEX, and it's vampires. You like vampires?
Like I said, if I have a chance to pick it up, sure.
Yeah, this is probably something you have to special order.
Underground City. What?
What I like about CEX is it seems like all their books are like single creator.
I like because their name sounds like sex.
Well, there's that too. But it's not like, they're just like finding people to make a book. I'm guessing that these are a lot of creator owned stuff, people making their own books, and sometimes you get some cool gems that way. All right. Well, it looks like we're probably going to be out of here unless you guys have anything else you want to add.
Not much. Just gonna. I gotta see what trades are coming out this week.
They got a new Resident Alien one, the Book of Love.
Yep. I already have the individual issues. I don't buy. See, if I buy the individual issues, I don't go buy the trade. I
Yeah,
only buy the
yeah.
trade.
I've been thinking I don't need to have like duplicate copies, so I'm actually going through and seeing like what do I have doubles of, because I'm trying to make some space in my short boxes. because we're getting
Alright,
crowded in there.
Junkyard Joe is getting. I'm getting that trade though, or maybe not once. I don't know.
Did you not? Were you not reading Junkyard Joe?
I have all of the issues. I read all
okay.
three.
Oh, okay.
I just said the trade. I'm like, do I really want to get trade? No, I'll wait for hardcover.
Mm.
Oh my gosh, Batman! One more day. One bad
Oh yeah,
day.
the one bad day collection.
The
yeah.
build a box set.
Yeah, I saw that.
Ugh.
No, thank you.
There's only
Secret Invasion.
one trade you need to be getting.
Planet Hulk. Willbreaker.
No, that came out
I
last
doubt
week.
that.
Oh, the one that. Oh, you know what? The Edward Brubaker book.
The Captain America Masterworks.
No.
No, if you're talking about the Edward Brubaker book, Breen didn't like it.
Oh yeah, Breen was not a. Well, he didn't say he didn't like it. He said
It
he
wasn't bad,
expected-
but
he said he expected more. He expected better. Yeah.
After reading his other books, he expected better. This was just a setback.
Breen's going a little off the rocker here after that Salton Sea book.
Did you read Night Fever?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Ooh, Mighty Marvel's Masterworks, Captain America, Volume 2.
Yeah, if only somebody had just said that.
I know. That's why I said it, because no one said it.
I said it 10 seconds ago.
Now you're just trying to be jealous. You're trying to make it seem like you did, but you really didn't.
It's okay. God knows that I did.
Hey, he who holds the cosmic cube. I think we did a retrospective on this one. But poor Zach probably wasn't with us.
Probably wasn't. I don't
Even-
recall that one.
It's Falcon. First
What's the
appearance
Falcon?
of the Falcon.
When he has the green costume?
Yep.
Yeah.
Captain America had switched bodies with Red Skull because of the cosmic cube.
Hey, remember when that one Inhuman named Barf threw up the Cosmic Cube because he saw a
Well-
picture of it?
Well, that's where he got it from. Barf's great grandfather threw up the cosmic cube.
I was making a joke.
I was being serious. That's right, ground. All right, kids.
Well, we know there's a Resident Alien book coming out, and that's the only one RDV needs.
Nah, really. I already have the ones.
What?
Yeah, he's got the floppies.
I have the actual floppies.
Oh,
I only buy trades of ones I don't actually have any.
never
physical
mind. I
copies.
thought he was a real fan.
Oh my gosh. I only watch the show and read all the comics.
Not enough.
What you do?
I even got it tattooed. I even got it tattooed on my chest.
What you do is you get the trade, and then you frame you get some frames for the individual issues, and you hang them on your wall somewhere. I don't know where you'd have room.
Although there is something really cool coming out for trades, Dead Mall.
I'm not
That's
the
That's a horror thing where these kids wander into a mall that's possessed, abandoned mall, and they start mutating. They're also be hunted down by stuff too.
Ooh,
Really, really messed up.
interesting.
Fire Force Vine, and then that's Vine comes out.
Yep, new Fire Force manga.
Tomb
I haven't
Raider.
I haven't
came
read
out.
any of that in a while though. I need to get back on that.
Look at all this. Whoa, cool. There's a lot of books coming out there. A lot of busty women.
Night, everyone.